Hey everyone, what do you think, Mook? Skittles, what do you got?
Yeah, let's do this.
Yes, I think it's about
Let's
that.
do it. Woo. And welcome everyone. Woo.
Yes, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Uh, I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. My name is Twisted MIYAKE-MUGLER, and I'm going to be the moderator for this evening's conversation. I would first want to shout out Mook and Skittles. Actually, even before I do that, I think we're going to do a quick land acknowledgement before we even do the shout out. So I'm going to pass it over to Silk. I'm not sure if we already did that or not.
Skittles, do you want to read it or?
Skittles, sorry.
Yes, I can screen share and read it. So welcome to the Ballroom History Panel with Q&A. We acknowledge that we are gathered here on stolen lands for Indigenous people across Turtle Islands. These lands, rich in history and culture, have been violently taken and colonized, perpetuating the erasure and oppression of countless Indigenous nations who have stewarded these territories for millennia. We must confront North America's role in the transatlantic slave trade, where enslaved Africans were forcibly brought to build and enrich this continent, their contributions silenced and their suffering ignored. This brutal legacy of exploitation and dehumanization continues to shape systemic racism today. In solidarity with the Palestinian people, we denounce the ongoing colonial violence and displacement they endure. Their struggle echoes the experience of Indigenous peoples here and globally, highlighting the universal fight for self-determination, justice, and the end of apartheid practices. This land acknowledgement is not a mere formality, but a call to action. We demand accountability, reparations, and a commitment to dismantling the colonial structures that perpetuate inequality and oppression. Together, we strive for a future rooted in decolonization, equity, and true reconciliation.
Thank you. Thank you, Skittles, for doing the land acknowledgement.
Thank you.
So first, everyone knows that it's very important that we acknowledge the land that we are on. And it's interesting because we are kind of in different places right now. There's myself, I'm in Toronto. We know that Mother Raven LOUBOUTIN is all the way in BC. We know that the icon Shannon, are you in DC, Atlanta? I believe one of the two, and I know Lee Soldier's in New York City, and I know Mook is in Montreal. So, but what unites us all on this continent is, the slave Atlantic trade, and we all know what's happening in Palestine right now, and we all know the truth about ballroom and its exploitations and where it starts from and all that stuff. So it's important that we, of course, do that acknowledgements and not just make it lip service, but like the acknowledgement said, it is a call to action. So make sure that you all are supporting these Indigenous movements and supporting where they come from. So to get this started, the first thing we're going to do is a quick introduction of the panelists today. I'm a moderator. My name is Twisted MIYAKE-MUGLER, the legendary father of the Canadian chapter. I've been in ballroom since 2008, so that makes about 16 years now. And I've been in the Kiki scene in Canada since 2010. And everybody in here, well, the majority of us kind of know the rest of my story. And if you don't, you will hear about it in a second. I'm going to invite Mother Raven first to come on and introduce yourself. I don't mind introducing, but you can do yourself a better thing. Whatever you miss out, I'm gonna brag about. Go ahead.
I know I'll do mine and then you're gonna jump in anyways. I know that about you. Yeah, what's up? My name is Mother Raven LOUBOUTIN. I have been involved in ballroom since 2018, and my two main categories are face and old way. And yeah, I've been the mother of the House of Louboutin since 2022, I believe it was. And yeah, that's me. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And as Twisted said, I am coming from the unceded territories of the Silix Okanagan people.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for introducing yourself and the wonderful story. And we're going to get into more because we're going to be sharing a lot today. I know that we all know your stories, Shannon and Lee, from the New York story, but hopefully you guys will get to hear our perspective too and why we love ballroom the way that we do and we go so hard the way that we do. So you'll get to feel our passion. Lee, icon Lee SOULJA from New York City, from the Bazaar Ruler. You want to introduce yourself to the people? We have
Yes,
a lot
I
of
do. You know what? I would prefer. I'm gonna give the lady Shannon her flowers first. I'll let her go first.
Okay, I was trying to.
Ballroom started from the women, so this is space created by women. So I'm gonna let the women always come first. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm icon Shannon Balenciaga, the overall mother. I've been the overall mother of the House of Con as well. Been in ballroom for 20 years. I am iconic for face. I've walked every category, even performance. Even though I don't dance, I have one cash. So I have one cash for every category.
Icon.
Yes.
Yes.
But don't ask me to do anything. But thank y'all for having me. I enjoy it. I'm always going to be here for a 1 and a 2, and especially for this love that the international chapters give. I'm here for it.
Right, because there is an international Canadian chapter of Balenciaga, and I do hear from GQ how active you are in the House of Balenciaga and how you keep tabs, inductions, everything. So she's not just saying it. She's not just saying it. She means it.
The mothers, one thing, I have the history. Everybody might not get to see it, but I have. You might not see the face divas all the time, but trust and believe, we are always around. We see everything, we hear everything. You're just not going to see our face, but we're always hands-on.
Love that. Looking forward to hearing more from you for sure. And last but not least, the gentleman of the room, icon Lee SOULJA.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much for having me. It's so appreciated. I have been, well, I was first introduced to ballroom around 1985. So it's quite a long time. But I was a different person. I was still not, I didn't even identify with being gay at the time. I actually was married. So in 87, I was booked. I was actually a breakdancer. I was around when hip hop first started and working. So I got to travel to tour Tokyo and Philippines and stuff like that. And I met Willie Ninja while I was on that tour doing a gig for Mugler. And this was over in Tokyo. And when I came back, well, when we were there, Willie was like, I'm gonna teach you or show you. It's a long, cute story, but I don't want to get into it right now.
But we're gonna hear it tonight.
Okay, well,
you want to hear it tonight. It's for tonight. This is what we want to hear.
So how I got introduced to him and how strange it was that I had to go around the other side of the world to meet somebody that was right here in New York where I was. And we were exposed to this, just being in the same circles, but never really met each other. And so as it goes for me, the first time I went to a ball was when he actually took me to a ball, and he kind of introduced me as his brother. He didn't introduce me as his friend. He was like, hey, this is my brother Lee. And I guess the appeal for ballroom was that everybody just started saying to me, oh, well, if he's your brother, then that makes you my brother. And I'm his father, and that makes me this. And so before you knew it, I had an instant family just out of meeting him and us, having mutual respect for each other for being dancers and stuff. And so that's how it all got started. However, Willie and a lot of the people did not want me to be a part of ballroom. They did not want me. So I used to just come and spectate and really enjoy it. So for many years, I kept that role. I was really doing more nightlife, being more of a nightlife icon. And it took it to Willie was about to pass away, where he kind of said to me when he was in the hospital, he was like, you've been holding out to showcase your talent, and I think you really should do it. And so I ended up walking that year. And so everyone thought that I was going to dance and perform because
I was
that's
just
what I
about
was
to
known
ask.
with in nightlife as a club kid.
Mhm.
But I really was amazed by the fashion and being a club kid. You know how we turn trash into treasure and how we're able to make, you know, just references of stuff from fashion from, you know, abstract objects. And so my family chipped in. David Ultima, who's a pioneer in the community, he actually used to work for me, and he was like, "I'm gonna get you together." Hector Extrava, who was my dad, like they orchestrated the whole thing about how I was gonna come out and present this and present that, and so it was amazing that I actually walked my first time, and that wasn't until 2005. So it took how many years from
Like
85 to
10 years.
2005 before I actually really walked. Um, but like I said, so I was around for a long time though, cheering on the kids, doing a lot of stuff. But I won my first time, and then after that, oh, the kids were after me after that, honey. They wasn't struggling again, honey. They was
Nice.
getting it. But anyway, so until today, you know, I've been doing my thing. I've been presenting balls. I've been helping houses do balls. And I've been working very hard on archiving ballroom history. There's so much about the history of ballroom. The stories are being told. You know, the whole thing about history is that everyone is a part of history. Shannon, your story is a part of history. Twisted, your perspective is a part of history, and I just feel like no one should be shut down because it's all part of the collective of what history really is, right? And so, but there are some miscommunications and things that have happened, and ballroom is global now, and it's time that we really own our history and get it right. So, being that I run also Black Pride, I'm one of the largest Black Prides in the world. I felt like if I'm going to be honoring people in the community, and especially ballroom people, I need to know the history of who I'm honoring and why I'm honoring that. So I embarked with students from Columbia and Yale and to do a whole history project to really start researching it all the way to where drag balls started and how did drag balls turn from this to where we are today in the house and ballroom community. And so I'm
And where
proud
can we
of.
find that? Where can we
Hmm?
find that?
So it's not necessarily published yet. I'm doing a lot of stuff. The reason for that is because I'm really want it to be not just something that's just put out there and then again it gets disseminated. People start, you know, changing the narrative behind words, and that's a sad thing. That's where society is today on social media and networks. People can take a piece of this and take a part of that, and then all of a sudden now what the words that were meant to be something can now look like something else.
Yes.
So I really want the history to be documented the right way. I'm working on some stuff with the African American Smithsonian Museum. I'm working with the New York Historical Society. And so we've uncovered quite a bit, but there's still so much. There's gaps of things that are missing, right? So we know balls started in 1869. We've traced it all the way back that far, but we still, you know, have to really talk about what happened from there until the, you know, Harlem Renaissance, when you started to see more and more balls come up, where at that time it was just one annual ball, to when it started to become 2 and 3 and 4 until balls really, if it wasn't for ballroom, so much of Harlem Renaissance and, you know, LGBT people in general is what created, put Harlem where it is today, and start talking about how did that move on to the freedom for, you know, LGBT people. And then, you know, of course there's pageants, and then there's, you know, shows, you have the showgirls. And so there's, you know, there's a way that I want things to be written that's respectful, because you have trans women today that still do shows, that perform in drag shows, but they're not drag. You know, we have to understand that there are showgirls and things like that. So I really want to do it where I'm writing it in the tone of what we have today and the language that we have today, but understanding that in those days we didn't have some of that terminology, we didn't use those words. So everybody was considered drag. Well, we're not there, we're not at that anymore. So I don't want to talk in that language, but I do want to explain there was a history, where there's a time when we were not using those labels and using those words, and how did we get from one place to another. So in other words, it's a lot more intense, and just, you know, writing at this date, this happened, this date, that happened, this date, that happened. There's a lot of cause and effect. There's a lot of laws that were placed and things like that, and really talk about the climate of of, you know, the world and New York during those periods of time. So
right, because the thing is that, quite frankly, if you were to say it in the language that was used at those times, you know, a lot of people would just try to like hear those words, try to cancel these things, and not even really get into the content of what's actually being said. Sometimes they just rather critique certain things versus understanding it. So if you're already considering speaking to them in language that they understand and respect today, I think you're already kind of making an intentional decision to make sure that they understand it. And that's really, really positive, because a lot of people in ballroom are very traditional. You know, we're used to talking about ballroom in our way and stuff like that. But I'm glad to hear that you're doing that. So I'm definitely looking forward to what that is going to be like, because
let me go deeper with that too. So let's say, even within ballroom, the language that we use, right? So we have labeled people who started the houses, right, from the 70s and stuff on, as pioneers in the community, right? But what about all of the women that were involved with ballroom for all of those years before that, for 100 years before that, right? What do we call them, right? So we have to figure out a way, because now that language is there. It's around the world. Pioneers, icons, legends. We have this terminology in this language, but that really doesn't explain, you know. So when people say, you know, we talk about Crystal, and she's extremely important in that, but Crystal wasn't there during the Harlem Renaissance. Crystal wasn't there when those balls were happening. Crystal wasn't there when the balls were happening way up in Harlem in the 1800s and stuff, right? The documents, things that we have of, you know, how ballroom was back then. So we've got to put it in context also, the language that we use in ballroom, because of how it's handed down to us. And that's a hard thing to do, because once people have been taught, oh, this is what happened. Oh, I saw this movie, The Queen, and she went on, blah, 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 and this is how ballroom. Well, now that's stuck in everybody's head.
Right.
But you have to really understand. You can go back to Jet magazine and they could talk about, you know, the language they used back then was the faggots ball and this and that. You have newspaper clippings talking about these balls and stuff. So Crystal was not there at that time. So it's not fair to say that Crystal created ballroom, but she definitely was the catalyst from the change of the drag balls to the house and ballroom system that we have today. So that's what makes her very iconic and that pivotal person. But the language, again, has gotten twisted, and the way people teach it and the way that people talk about the history has become very confusing. So if we in the community are confused about our own history, we can't be mad when other people repeat it and they got it twisted. Absolutely. It starts with us. And if we don't take the effort or care that we get it right, instead of fighting with each other about, I am this and I've been around the longest and I should have the right to tell it. Yeah, okay. Anybody could tell it. When you go to school and somebody's teaching you about Julius Caesar, you don't look at the teacher and go, you wasn't living then, so you can't teach it. Like, why do we do that? Why do we want to shut someone down who's trying to teach history and trying to learn the history and pass on the right thing? But we want to silence them because, you know, certain people feel like they want to keep their rank, so to speak. I'm trying to put it politely. But it's also for us to sometimes we have to critique ourselves and say, you know, we can't always be mad at other countries when we hear certain things or certain language being used. We have to think about, what are we saying that led them to say that, or who taught them that, or where did they get that from? You know, so it is a much more complex thing, and it's not an easy bone to swallow when you start really talking about history and who did what, and how each house started. I think that each house should really tell their stories of how did your house start and where did your house come from, and, you know, what made you open a house. You know, I could speak in my story and tell, you know, what made me make a decision to open up the House of SOULJA, but that's not an explanation for every house. Every house has followed their own trail, has, you know, people have made their own decisions, and I think that's the beauty of it. Each one of us have our own story, so that's why I say each one of us contribute to history, because we're all walking balls and winning, and we all have something to contribute to the history, if you know what I mean, right? So
absolutely. I love
Ballroom History Month.
Ballroom History Month.
It's gonna come. It's gonna come.
I almost feel like it's happening right now.
The day that, and piggybacking off of you, Lee, the day that we decide that we are worthy enough, it's gonna be the day when people start taking us serious. That is our biggest thing. We have to start realizing we deserve everything. And it's a time for us to take it, grab it and take it. And just a little side note from Lee, where you just said, I just remember something. I don't know if I ever told you this. When I came into Ballroom, one of my first conversations was with Willie Ninja on the phone. Unfortunately, it was like right when he was about to pass. And I've had the pleasure of having conversations with the icons before me, walking on stage with the lovelies like Octavia and Tanae, and having Anjanae come to my ball, the last ball that she's been to. And I've been in Ballroom 20 years and she only been to one ball. To have somebody like that come out. So it's just the honor and respect that the ladies have come before me, and even the gentleman that has come before me that I have had the pleasure to see. Is like the history we have. And I try to make sure that I keep that legacy going for the next generation so they can be the pioneers for the next go around.
Well, talking about next generational stuff. Now, here's a question that I had, because Lee, you said something that I feel is very different in Ballroom today, right? In the Club Kid era, and even in the era where I came in, because I was researching like the era just before mine, obviously. So that's like the 2000, 2008 era, right? You said something about we took trash and turned it into treasure in the ballroom scene, right? And now I feel that in this day and age, people do not have the concept and understand that concept of turning trash into treasure. Although you're talking about Club Kid or Bazaar, right? I feel that in almost all the categories, except for maybe Shannon, you could speak to if that's this case in Face, but I feel that in a lot of categories in Ballroom, there was this essence of rawness, turning trash into treasure that's kind of lost right now, because people are going, essentially, they're bringing in the treasure, if that makes sense, like spending thousands and thousands of dollars on looks and effects and stuff like that. And wonder if, like, do you think that people having coins or that access to coins is kind of taking away from the essence of Ballroom in these new spaces in some kind of way? Or do you think it's just, how do you feel about it, essentially, is what I'm asking? That's all.
It's always been money in Ballroom. There's always been people who have access, and they showcase that. You can go back and look at VHS tapes and stuff. There was, the truth be told, I personally think it was more fabulous than what it is now. I think because some of the people now water it down. They don't, but I also commend, let me praise the ones that's out there today, because I am so proud and so happy with the ladies, what they have been bringing. And I always have to say, I'm going to toot myself on the back. I have watched and seen how the ladies have elevated their looks. I'm all about richness. I am so proud of that, something that I poured into Ballroom, that I see in them get it. And I love it. And I can't wait to see more. So I don't think it's watered down in that sense, and that money and access is making it less than, because it's always been there. It's just now having more resources. Well, let me say this. The ones that were never able to have the resources are able to get the resources now. So I think that's the difference.
I'm going to definitely 1,000% agree with you. I think that, again, when I first was introduced to Ballroom, it still was such a subculture. And it still was, about, people wanting that, being aspirational about things that they saw on television. And so it reflected in a lot of the categories, town and country and dynasty and all of those things. So even if they didn't have the money, they found a way to always elevate themselves. And when they showed up on the ballroom floor, had you not known where they were living or where they came from, you would not know it, and you would not believe it. You understand? So yes, there are so many things that has changed. We went from a time where, even before the stuff you see in Paris is Burning Man, talk about mopping and different things, there are other films that I would love to expose the community about, because we have to realize too that Ballroom was multicultural from the very beginning, right? That's one of the things that made Ballroom such a thing that so many people were against. It wasn't just that, dressing in clothes of the opposite sex was against the law. It was the fact that being Black and white and being in spaces and sharing spaces and dancing was also taboo at those particular times, right? So you can go all the way back and you can really look at, and there's a film that's an amazing documentary film that really shows the Black and Latinos in the 40s and 50s that were walking balls. These people today, after I sat down with them, they're in their 90s. They got pictures of them walking balls and what it was like to walk, for $25. That was the grand prize, if it was a prize, and those things. But to really talk about mopping at Bloomingdale's and, robbing the museum. So it wasn't just a Black thing. And I hate that sometimes too, that we have put that on ourselves to say like, oh, the children are robbing and stealing. No, everybody that was a part of Ballroom, white, Black, whatever, they did the same thing, because they all were trying to aspire to be something, and so.
I think that maybe my question may have been I may have said it incorrectly, right? Because I'm thinking like and I'm agreeing with what you're saying, because there was they did what they had to do to get it. And I think that's what I'm saying, is that people are not having to do what they have to do to get it now. So how do you feel about that? Or do you feel that it makes a difference in the ballroom? I'm saying
that I think it's a good thing. I think that now you have a lot more people who also have prioritized going to school, getting jobs. They understand that Ballroom is an extracurricular activity. And yes, it's not necessarily, they have not centered their whole life around Ballroom, but they know how to pull themselves together to come and walk a ball. So it's you have people that are stylists now, actually having real jobs. So when they walk a category, it feels a lot more authentic to who they really are. You understand? It's not as aspirational as it was. I'm going to say in the 80s when I was introduced to it. Today, they're living it.
I love it, because that's what Shannon's talking about.
They are makeup artists. They are stylists. They are winning awards. And yes, they can come to Ballroom and say, yes, I got this. And that adds to their bragging points, right? That wasn't something we did back then, but now.
Let me add this.
Please.
Back then, we were excluded. We were hidden in the closet like the disabled child. Now we are celebrated. We are celebrating ourselves. We are coming out. They're actually allowing us finally to be the stars and not be the puppets in the background.
That's fab.
And we celebrate ourselves. It's about a pride to be able to come through and walk a category and say, I bought this.
Right, I live this, right? I have the receipts.
Or the narrative always being placed on us as if, oh, did he mop that child? Where'd he get that from? Where he steal it? Where he borrowed that from? No, it's a sense of pride for somebody to come and say, I made this. I created this. I bought this. And I think that is a beautiful thing to me about today. Versus the past. I love the past. I love how creative, because where there's a will, there was a way, and the kids found a way to make it all happen. But it's beautiful also to look at today and say, I am so proud of my kids. My kids are going to school. They're coming out with degrees and everything, and they're still able to walk a ball. I am proud of that elevation and that history. So it doesn't bother me. However, I can understand also for people for nostalgia, right? So many categories, the way they were, have changed. We talk about runway as a particular category, right? Where it was really about presenting yourself as a model. It was about your walk. It was about looking like a model. Today, we can't really say that, right? Because it looks very costumey. It really looks about a bunch of effects. And the effects sometimes can outweigh does that person really can walk, because you're so fascinated by the visual of the effects and what they brought to the category. And so I champion that because I love creativity, but we have gotten away from, is that walk what it is? You understand? Because we're fascinated by the category. So there is a lot of elevation in things. I talk about, especially to my kids, about Twister, what Twisters was, realness with a twist. Well, it has changed. We don't make guys really walk and get their chance for realness, and they come right out of twisting. So sometimes we bear the question and go, is there really a difference between Vogue Femme and Twisters? Because are we really pushing the narrative that all people that Vogue Femme have to be feminine men, period, and that Twisters have to be a certain type of thing? We're pushing that narrative because when you look at the category, If you didn't know better, when you see a twister in a tutu and you see the other one in it, baby, they look the same. You know, but it's a narrative that we're pushing, right? When that category first started, they didn't have to be so perfect when the twisters came out. They didn't have to be, you know, as femme and as perfect as the, you know, what we see the Butch Queen Vogue femmes give today. But be honest now, when you see the twisters today, they vogue equally as good, they look equally as good, they come out looking like the competition that they're battling, right? And so because there's so many of them too, we don't make them do the realness.
And let me add on to another reason why ballroom it has changed. Let's go back to the dynamics of each of us. Families are no longer displacing their kids. They're actually celebrating and loving. It is probably a 1% of that. I don't even know how many children that I know that their parents disown them for being different, as quote unquote society will say. So I think that has become obsolete, that we don't have anymore. So they're in a place, like Lee said, they're in a place where they're prioritizing work, school, higher education. I haven't, for the first time, for the past 20 years, and I have lived, I'm in my 40s now, I'm seeing these kids are making $100,000 a year. And that is commendable, because that's not something was eligible to my generation. Only a small select few was able to do that. So I push, and when I say I push, one of my kids, I wouldn't let him go on Legendary because his job was going to pay him more than $100,000. So I'm always going to push, go get your money, because I know firsthand how hard it is when you don't have access.
Priorities are very, very important today. And the only thing I'm going to say to that is you are right when it comes to, we're seeing a definite increase in families accepting their kids, but there are still, unfortunately, a lot of people that still live at home or going through youth, because I mentor so many that are in programs or they're in homes. But the difference today is that I've noticed that this younger generation has a lot of access. They have a different self-awareness about who they are, and wanting to transition early or finding themselves, or they have such freedoms in the way that they can identify where, you know, before we couldn't. And so in a lot of ways, they kind of look at their parents and go, it's okay if you don't, I know who I am. You know, I have some kids that live at home and their mothers are like, you know, I don't care what you do outside, don't do that in my house. You understand? So they go to a friend's house and they got to get dressed up and do it. Now the parents know, they know, but they don't want to see it, you know? So there is still a degree of that. And there's still, unfortunately, you know, we still are working here in New York. You know, I'm working with a lot of nonprofit agencies around homelessness. But I just think that we see less of it, because today, you know, which is something, it took me a long time to find out and figure out who I was, you know, to get my identity straight. And I always have to give it up to the girls again, the women in my life. The first time that I went to a place called Sally's and stuff like that, and I went with a friend, and it was trans women that helped me to, you know, figure out, you know, it's okay to like apples and oranges. It's okay to be, you know, consider yourself bisexual. It's okay to do this and do that. Because I felt in my generation, you know, if you did one thing, period, if you messed around with guys or you had an interest in guys, or if you looked at a guy, you're gay, period. It was no middle ground. There was no this and that. It was one or the other. And you know, being transparent, I was molested as a kid. So I actually had like a internalized hate for how it was introduced. I was introduced to it, which caused me to stay away from it. But it took trans women to sit down and tell me, share some of their stories and their journeys and things that they had to go through, especially when it comes to aligning their bodies with who they are on the inside. And that gave me more empowerment to say, hey, I can be who I want to be, and I don't owe that explanation to anybody but myself. Only one life to live, and I got to live it the way the best to, you know, to what's going to make me happy, you know?
Wait, so you didn't explain it to your ex-wife?
No, because you know what? I did.
I just
I'm glad you asked. People ask me that question. I actually been married twice, to tell you the truth, actually, too. So the curiosity was there, and of course, you know, I had a lot of friends. I told you about Willie and everything else. I had a lot of friends, and I was very comfortable. When you start dancing and working in fashion and club kids, it was, and especially in that generation in New York, the limelight and stuff, it really wasn't about sexuality. You had guys that used to wear dresses and stuff that were club kids that came to the party with their girlfriends and stuff. They still, it wasn't about, you know, gender expression, you know, so I had to learn the difference between that gender expression and sex and sexuality. Those are all different things. And for me, at my young age, I clumped it all together. So if you were putting on a dress, that must mean you must be gay. And I don't know what you were doing over here. Like, I had to figure all of that out and understand that gender expression had nothing to do with anything. And then I began to become rebellious, and I decided to say, who said that pink is for girls and guys can't wear pink? Who said that tulle is a fabric for? That didn't come from God. That's some rule that man made up. So I started doing things intentionally, you know, and stuff. And, you know, my first wife, she understood it because she used to come to the clubs and party and stuff. So she didn't look at it, and I didn't look at it necessarily as being a gay thing. You gotta remember too, the 80s was Prince, who had the most finest women, but he wore panties and stockings, right? You had so many other things. You had that face. But, you know, let's be clear, David Bowie and all these things. So it was that era of, you know, gender expression really was coming to the forefront and really was not what it's looking like today. So that's, again, that's why I really feel so much for the youth today, right?
Sorry, no, somebody was unmuted. Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I was just saying that, you know, I just think that gender expression today is it's wonderful today, how the youth today are able to be able to make that gender expression. They can go and have their IDs changed to the gender marker that they're comfortable with. Like, we're getting more and more able to live our life and align ourselves the way that we feel genuinely about ourselves from the inside. So
nice.
Ballroom had to reflect.
So that is going to take me into a Canadian question right now. I'm going to get you, Mother Raven, because I know you're leaving shortly. And as a mother, you definitely can speak to what you see brings people into ballroom in Canada. What do you see as the young people? What are the reasons that people are telling you that they're joining ballroom in Canada, even for yourself and for your kids? And this is just to share some Canadian perspective. And also, like I said, I think this is also a generational thing too, because we're a part of like the newer generation as well in ballroom on the international front. So it's going to be very, very different, and it might look different, it might look the same. So what do you see are the reasons that our youth are joining ballroom in Canada?
First, I want to backtrack a little bit because I think it's super important, the conversation that we were just having about whether or not the glamour and the richness is deterring people away from ballroom, because I think that I have seen that become a problem for people where they're like, I can no longer keep up. Like, I feel like the standard got set so high, but it's so interesting learning that it's always been that high. Right. So thank you, Shannon, for saying that it's always been this high. It's just like, how do we not let that turn us away from something that could bring us so much, right? And I feel like I have seen some kids be like, I can't keep up with the cost anymore because I need to focus. And that reminder that Lee said too is ballroom is extracurricular, right? So it's not something that needs to consume our whole lives. And I feel like during the pandemic is when ballroom was so accessible to consume your whole life with. Yes. And me for sure. Like that was when all I had left was ballroom because there was nothing else going on in the world. And so I was able to spend all of my time, a lot of my resources just diving into this world. And I feel like for the people that began ballroom during the pandemic, it was such an interesting thing because it was like, it felt all consuming because that's all we had. And then when things opened up a little bit more, then people were like, whoa, like I also need to focus on other aspects of my life. So how do I keep going on both roads, right? And so I think, I just really appreciate what both of you said, because I think it's really important for the younger generation to recognize that ballroom doesn't have to take all of your resources, but it can be an inspiration to get more resources, to start that job, to say like, to start that career. And ballroom can be a way to explore like, oh, I'm really into makeup. and how do I find that outside of that? And then how do I come back to ballroom, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I also think it's super important what Lee said, like it took you 20 years before you walked a ball. Is that?
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
was,
20
1995 to 2005.
Oh, and I feel like in some of the generation I'm seeing, because everything is so fast right now, because everything's so fast, people are like, why am I not at this level yet? How come I haven't excelled in my category yet? How come I haven't found the right category yet? Oh my God. And seeing people dive so hard into one category without being able to, and then just walking away from ballroom as a whole, right? Because they feel like they haven't found their fit. But I feel like it's so inspiring to remember that it can take you 20 years before you even step out on the runway, right? And that doesn't mean that you're not a part of ballroom, because you don't have to be walking on the
star
part of ballroom. And you don't always have to consistently be on the runway to stay in ballroom, right? And I feel like that's so important for people to remember, and even important for myself to remember. You know, I've had to like take a step away from ballroom. I've had to take a step away from my family. They're still my family, but unfortunately there's other priorities that have taken my time right now. And you know, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, yeah, like ballroom is a part of us that we're going to hold forever, whether you're in it consistently, whether you took a break, whether it took you a long time to get there. I think that it's beautiful to remember that it's a community that you're like, that's vital to you, no matter like what stage you are in it. So I just want to say thank you to both of you for bringing up like extreme points there. But what was your question, Twisted? I forget actually.
So my question was, because we were talking also about how people are introduced to the ballroom, our youth in the ballroom, right? And what brought people into ballroom. So I was asking if you can share some perspective to what you hear are bringing your kids in Canada into the ballroom scene, to share that perspective with Shannon and with Lee.
I think it's really interesting, and I'm going to specifically talk about the Montreal scene here, but I think it's really interesting because I think that people are coming to ballroom at first thinking that it's going to be a super open and accepting place for them to explore their queerness, and they're not really sure what that means yet, right? And so and I'm talking about some people, like some people will come to ballroom very quickly realize that it is not the community for them, right? And there's a lot of other places for people to express their sexuality, to express their gender expressions, to be expressing all of this queerness that's inside them. And I think that what attracts people to ballroom and what keeps them there in Montreal is, I definitely think that it's the glamour, it's the fashion. I think that the fashion part of things is bringing people there, but I also think it's the performance aspect of it, and it's the artistic aspect of it. I think that Montreal is a very artistically based city, and so I feel like a lot of people realize that they have these talents or expressions, and then they realize that they can form it into something that is ballroom, right? So I feel like that's why a lot of people have come. I know a lot of people have come for the fashion aspect of things, but I do think that because, as Lee was talking about, like society or some parts of society are a lot more accepting of, you know, of queerness, of gender, of sexuality. I think that ballroom is now not the only place for people to do that. And I think that's really beautiful too, because I think that there's a lot of other areas that people can express these things. It's not the only thing anymore. But yeah, so I think that's what I'm seeing in Montreal, and that's what I like. I like seeing people come in and realize very quickly, like, no, you know, and I'm like, yeah,
that's so funny. I wish
queer cabaret, like that's your thing right there, right? And that's okay. Ballroom does not have to be the only place for you.
No shade.
Well, let me say this right quick to you and anybody that's listening, because it's so important that we tell you guys this, that this generation after us was missing. To be rich and fabulous, for our generation, mean that you can have 5 cents in your purse and you can turn a lookout on the floor. That's what I need for y'all to get. That's what y'all are missing. Ballroom is not meant for you to go to the floor and, oh, I got $100,000 outfit on. Baby, somebody standing next to you can go to Walmart and put an outfit together and look way better than you. Y'all have to realize, and when I say in it, I've always had, and clearly y'all know my story, I always had a passion for fashion, but y'all know what the best thing, and I'm gonna give praises what praises is due. The best thing that happened to me in my ballroom career was meeting Mariah Balenciaga. Mariah, being a drag queen, gave me tools and tips and a path. I had a vision and she gave me the plan to guide me in the right direction to make my look 10 times better for ballroom. She did that. It took a drag queen to get me where I needed to be and put me in the direction of right people. Mariah showed me I can go to Michael's. Shout out to Michael's. And I literally, when I say, and I'm gonna give y'all a little tip, y'all can go look, a ball that me and Mariah both walk. Mariah, I had a corset from Frederick's of Hollywood that cost $50. I put on Mariah's skirt, even though it was a little big for me. I took it and cinched it up in the back. I went and got some feathers from Michael's and I put it in the corset. You would think I would have spent all this money and it only cost me $20 to go walk. And we got in cars and I drove us up to the ball and we walked. We didn't win, but it only cost me $20. And guess what? It was free 99 because I took them feathers back after the ball. So y'all, you don't always have to spend the money. Y'all will be surprised. I can go down the list and tell y'all all the different things, how looks came about. We've taken the latex ball, the one time that I walked the latex ball, that was Mariah's first stole. Ostrich first stole. And I took it and sewed it to the bottom of a gown that I got for free. And we ripped apart and created a whole new look. And it was free 99. And I won $1,000. Turned around, went to the Capitol Wars ball with that same fur. And I was it was wrapped around me. And it was a whole nother. You have to use what you got to get what you need. Stop thinking that you need all this money and you don't. It's all about taking what you got and creating another look out of it. And nobody will ever think it's the same piece. But now y'all know.
Oh, Shay, you just reminded me of, like, I don't know if you guys watched The Simpsons or not, but like there was an episode where Marge Simpson had a Chanel dress, a two-piece, and then she was trying to hang out with the country club, and she was trying to go every day, so she changed the outfit like 6 different ways, and the outfits were fab. Okay, was how she presented it, right? And that's so epic to hear you say that, because I'm like, that's what I was trying to kind of say, that it's like, that's what ballroom really is. It's an attitude. It's a essence that you still are the, no matter if I'm wearing $1 million, wearing $1, I make it hot, right? It doesn't make me hot. You know what I'm saying? So I live for you.
I love that's what I said for realness. We found a way to make it happen. And I love that. But Raven, I want to add something to it too. And I think that this is also important for the younger generation to understand also, is that sometimes this narrative about who's really ballroom and who is not. Ballroom is made up of people that do so many things. We have people that are makeup artists. Not everybody that people say is ballroom have to be on that runway. You have people that are hairstylists. Sometimes it takes a team to put people together, right?
Yes.
The stylists, the designers that are making the clothes, the makeup artists, like I said, hairstylists, and just so much that goes into it. And they necessarily don't always get their respect because they're not the ones that are on the runway making the jewelry, right? Douglas Sens is a very, very good friend of mine. He's been making clothes for the girls all the way back into Tracy, right? To the era of Tracy. You tell me that he is not just as iconic as the women that he has made the clothes for, who have won grand prizes wearing his clothes? No, so he is not necessarily on the runway, but everything that he has done and created through the girls have been there. So I think that we also sometimes get lost in this whole thing about a trophy, right? Winning. So sometimes when I hear young you saying, well, I gave ballroom 5 years, honey, and I'm out of it because this hasn't happened, that's okay. I also tell people, chops, honey, take it with a grain of salt. There's nobody with a book writing down how many times you got chopped. The best of them have gotten chopped, and it has not stopped their path from becoming legendary or icons.
Right.
Take it with a grain of salt. We also know that ballroom can be very, very political. And so there's always going to be one winner. But it doesn't mean ballroom's about moments. You could still make the most amazing moment. You may not win because the politics of what's happening on that judges panel. And let's not act like we don't know that there's politics everywhere we go, in every country. So the
every
politics,
country.
you know, you could have just turned that ball. The whole people, the spectators in that ball could just went up for you. And then you look at the person who just won and you're like, what just happened? But baby, the world will always remember your moment. And no one cannot take that away from you. So we have to sometimes make sure that when I'm teaching new kids that are coming into ballroom, stop worrying about the chop. Stop worrying about if you won the trophy or you didn't do this and you didn't do that, because some of my biggest moments came from somebody that gave me an undeserving chop. And I was upset when it happened, but I paid it because it gave me my attitude to say, bitch, I'm going to keep coming. Like I told you, I won my first time. And then after that, they were chopping me like crazy, honey. So, and I said, I'm going to keep coming because I'm going to show you what I can do. I'm going to show you that every time I hit this floor, I'm going to bring something different. I'm going to shock you guys who want to put me in a box and say, oh, he's club kid, he's this and that. And I'm going to show you that I'm more than that. Don't put me in the box that I didn't label myself. So we got to get the younger generation to say, you can still be a part of ballroom. And it's okay to prioritize your life and your health and yourself. Sometimes for your own mental health, take a seat sometimes from ballroom. You understand? So yes, it could be fab. I know this kid, I'm not going to name no names, but you know, there's two kids who are always talking about, you know, the labels and the best dressed category. And one of them had lost a job, but he got to walk this ball. And I told him, I said, I'm not going to ever go against whatever your house leaders are telling you to do. But you need to sometimes realize for yourself to take a seat. You don't have the job, if you don't have the money, and if they're not going to support you financially to help you to get to the runway to do what you got to do, it's okay to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to pass this time, you know, and not to feel like you are any less than, or that you are less talented, or that you are not that one. Still, keep pushing through. You understand?
Yeah, and that's not you saying no to ballroom. That's you saying yes to yourself.
Yourself.
Right?
Nothing wrong.
Yes to yourself. And no, I think that's so important. Like, thank you so much, Lee. Like, I'm thinking of two of my kids back in Montreal. Like, they're both in fashion. They're like one of my kids say, like, they were able to create a beautiful dress for someone to go walk like coldest winter in New York. And I was so proud of them because I was like, you walk old way, but you also do this. I'm thinking of Amina, like she's walking performance, but I'm like, you also have like, you're in school for fashion right now. And I'm like, you're going to bring that. And ballroom is so accessible for so many reasons because it's also just not who you are on the runway. It's everything about who you are. Right. And I think it's really, really beautiful to remember that too, you know?
Yes, because you said something earlier, Lee, that I wrote on here in my notes right here. It's like ballroom once was aspirational, right? But now we're seeing that people are living out their lives and their lives are reflected on the runway as well. So when you just said that, I thought that was so powerful because I'm like, damn, yeah, people really are not just walking something that they want to believe. They're walking these categories because they do believe that they already are these categories. It's not like I'm hoping to be that. It's because I am that. And that's why I'm walking those categories. I think that it was so poignant when you said that.
It's still aspirational. As much as that's what has drawn me to ballroom. I didn't need ballroom. I was drawn to it because it was something that was in me and it was an outlet. I came home from prison and I'm like, when I went to my first ball, I was like, I'm home. This is what I've been creating life. This is what made me end up in prison. And I found a place where I can do this and be celebrated for it. Let me do it. And and piggybacking off Lee, y'all, this is what y'all kids need to understand. You don't know who is watching. Your loss will be your biggest gain. And I'm gonna run it down to you right now.
Go ahead.
Every one of my biggest moments in ballroom, your favorite celebrity has emulated, have loved it. It has inspired Beyonce. Pat McGrath, Naomi Campbell. It just inspired the SNL thing. And
Yeah.
I keep saying, we as Ballroom, we have to take our roses. We have to speak because they exclude us, but we have to be the ones that talk about it. Me going on BET and using my fan, inspiring the iconic choreographer, Fatima, who choreographed the Renaissance, who choreographed the Color Purple. The fan trickled on down to Beyonce, all the way down to the SNL. You never know who's watching.
Absolutely.
And I'm always going to speak my history. I did that. No, I did it. So when you in those spaces, do it. Don't let people tell you, oh, you can. They are watching. They're watching us. So when you do see it, you turn around. Look at when I won $5,000 at the Garçon Ball for Perfect Tens.
Right.
The very next week, Cardi B did my runway look in her music video. I did a photo shoot with the House of Balenciaga, turned around, the fashion house of Balenciaga took Cardi B and took our whole idea and did a photo shoot. Did we get credit? No, but I know you're watching. Thank you. I don't need to blast you. Thank you so much. I know we're doing right. And one day soon, we will be in that position.
I mean,
That's all you take
we're getting
road.
closer and closer. We're getting closer and closer and closer and closer. So it is going to happen. Moments over wins.
You're so right, Shannon. One year, the first year I did the Heritage Ball, and I did the open to all for the runway. And I did it with the idea of, instead of like the, this whole idea of butterflies and stuff. And then sure enough, right behind that, the next month or 2 months later after that, the underwear was, I'm sorry, the Victoria's Secret category, runway. Everybody was butterflies. So you never know who was there and who saw what and who got inspired by something that you do. And for years I did, celebrity products. So I've worked with Beyonce. I can name the list all the way down. And you're right. Sometimes they will talk and they'll ask you questions and say, I want to go to a ball and I want to see this and I want to do that. And like you said, you never know who's watching. One time at my father's ball, the motor ball, Hector gave this ball La Moda, and I walked the bizarre category, and I didn't want down to the final battle. But Michael Kors was there. And Michael Kors, who was my client at Macy's at the time, one of the celebrity designers that I was working with, came to me and said, he said, the victory was stolen from you because that was fabulous. So you never know who's watching. And I also feel like sometimes fashion and sometimes it's subjective. So we shouldn't take it always so deep when we don't win, because maybe that person, that wasn't their taste or were their eye for what you had done. But that may be the next person saying to them, it was fabulous. And I've learned not to internalize it. There was a period, I have to tell my own truth too. There was a period that I was like, well, damn, everybody always, why they coming for me? Like, why is this, I'm that new person trying to understand it. I was still finding myself. And, and it took somebody to teach me to just take it as a learning opportunity to say, no, bitches, I'm coming back again and I'm going to do this again. And I'm going to show you that one chop don't stop the roll on my path. I'm not going to let you, deter me or push me out of Ballroom because you want somebody else to win or some politics to win. And just by doing that and keep going, then I began to win and I began to win and I began to win when all of a sudden everybody in the icon started saying to me, oh, I'm coming to New York because I'm coming to see you. That to me was a moment when people were traveling here to New York because they wanted to battle me. Like I was that person. And so you never know, like you said, who's watching, who's paying attention. And please, and I really hope, and I'm going to say this piece, and I know people get at me all the time, but just like the Oscars and the Emmys and all those things, one thing that I really want to do, and I can necessarily do it, but we have to all sometimes pay homage to the people behind the scenes. The people who do the makeup. Don't you see in the movies, people that are behind the scenes, don't they win awards?
In my
People
notes.
who did best hair, best makeup, best this and best that. Why don't we do that in Ballroom?
I have
because
a question.
Not all the girls make their own clothes. They are styled. They're a makeup artist. They're a hair. Shannon, people like you just gave credit to a big star in the community who helped put you together, right? So
don't you always see me? I speak my village. Even being on Legendary, when they tried to take credit from us, I was like, no, you're not going to. And I'm always made to be the villain, but I'm like, somebody has to speak up. When I die,
Somebody does.
at least somebody say, Shannon always took the high road and made sure everybody got credit. Because I put on everybody. If that shows a character of a person when they speak everybody's name, because there's a village over here. Even though I can do it myself, baby, I have a team. I love my people. We work together. I get in there, teach me, because teaching me, I can learn to do it myself, but I'm going to make sure you go in the process as well, because when I make it and the millions of dollars come in, when I sign them checks, you're going to be right there with me because we're family.
Mm-hmm.
We did this, we started together.
Yes. So, you know, okay, Mother Raven Louboutin definitely has to leave soon. So definitely want to thank you, Mother for spending time with us. I know that you're busy out there, but Lord, just want to show you some love, love, love. Make sure you guys all follow her. She has an Instagram if you're not following her already. She's a super, super talented, not just beautiful, but super talented as well. So support. You already know the Kiki legend, Mother Raven Louboutin.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was such an honor to hear all of this knowledge and all of this advice. And I just thank you so much, Lee, Shannon, and Twisted for your time. And I really hope the people listening are taking it to heart, because there's a lot being said. And I think it's just so vital that all of these experiences and all of this wisdom is shared to keep the younger generation going. So thank you for your vulnerability and for everything that you did today. And I hope the rest of it goes well. Love you.
We thank y'all. We thank you, because what y'all doing, it's an extension of what we did. And when y'all do it right, when y'all get it right, y'all don't understand how it warms our souls. You might not see us, you might not see it, you might not hear it. I'm telling you today, we love it. We love it because we know that it's in good hands with the right people doing it right.
Right.
I love that. I appreciate that. So I put something here because I'm like, do I want to ask this question in a funny way or do I want to ask it in a serious way? Right. So I'm gonna ask you all to say, do we want to do it in a funny way or do we want to say it in a cool way? No, we're gonna say it in the cool way. All right, so we're gonna say it in the cool way. This is Canada, okay? I'm still a little PC and cannot help it. But the conversation, I think that you said something so important that the both of you actually tapped on, is the fact that people now have a team of people, right? There's a conversation happening in Ballroom actually, with one of a very, very popular, very, very, very opinionated icon, that feels that those people who are behind the scene, they should not be deemed legendary or receive accolades for stuff that does not happen on the runway floor, right? You both mentioned the importance of people behind the scenes in Ballroom, because when you see something on the stage, it's not just that person, or the impact is not just from what that person puts in. So how do we feel about that? Because people are being deemed for stuff that is not directly on the floor. So, and this is a question for both of you to speak on. I really have no qualms in that fight. I just wanted to ask that because I know that I've seen the conversation from an icon in the scene. Very, very popular, like I said, very well known, very opinionated, very logical too. That, don't get me wrong, it's not they're just going off on rants and just like blah, 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 blah. No, they made a lot of sense in what they were saying. But just because it's a differing opinion, I just want to see if you guys can address that conversation, because in Canada, we believe in teams up here. Like, I could tell you that right now, the girls up here, they all have a team. That's for sure. If somebody's walking, their house did something, their friends did something, they did not do that by themselves. So do we feel that people should be rewarded for that in Ballroom or what?
I'm gonna go. You want to go first, Lee?
No, I'll let you go first, Shannon. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm all about celebrating everybody. And I think just like Lee said, we need to find a place, even if it's at the awards ball, where we honor and maybe do each house or come up with a group of 6 people for a certain amount of categories for best hair, best hairstylist, best wardrobe, best things of that nature, and give them out at awards. Maybe it just needs to be at the New York Awards Ball. So it's just a whole collective group of ballroom and you go head to toe. Because I have
in international scenes. They do that in international scenes.
I think I actually love the idea. And it's so crazy because I just had somebody come to me and ask about Josh. Josh is my partner in making a lot of my ballroom looks, very iconic looks. And he has done a lot for other people as well as in the pageant scene. And he has done for many houses. So he will be a great person to honor in ballroom. Should he be an icon or legendary? No, I don't. I think those things should be only to ball walkers, but I think we can also include some type of award to give to these individuals to make them known as well. And I'm gonna say something a little personal. I think ballroom need to honor our doctors as well. DC, we have a doctor who is no longer like, y'all, he is in his 80s because my mother is in her, the iconic Anne Allure. He has made all the girls. Every single girl has gone to him. And he was a pioneer in life, period. And nobody talks about him. And I've always said I wanted to honor him because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be,
Knows the girl. You said he knows all the girls, like he helps with transitions and stuff like that.
When I say he helped, and I don't want to say transition, he has helped any and every type of person, every walk of life, straight, gay, trans, whatever you want to call it. He has helped everybody. And when I say, and he has never turned anybody away, he has never made them feel bad. And this was back in the day when, baby, you had to go in alleys and things of that nature. So when I say, I would love for us to get to a point where we honor those individuals because we wouldn't be who we are without them.
So that just gave me like BET unsung heroes type of thing, but for ballroom's unsung heroes that, you know, are not celebrated. Lee, you were going to say something.
Yeah, so I feel like as I brought it up, I really do feel like there's a strong place for us to have to honor our support systems and our teams and people. Yes, I'm the first to say that doesn't mean that everybody deserves the same status or the same recognition. But there are key people who have been around for years. And we know who these people are who have contributed. Like I have a designer that's in my house and I never limit my kids to just my house because I help people in other houses. I'm mentoring 2 people right now who are not in my house to walk my category. So I'm not even going to walk my category myself at the latex ball because I am mentoring them, right? So I feel strongly about these designers, people who have branched out and done amazing. Think of Telfar, right? Telfar, and I can name quite a few others that who are part of the community, and they've inspired a house and all these different things. So there are people in ballroom who are founders of houses who didn't have the biggest career on the runway themselves. They weren't winning a whole bunch of trophies and things. Are they not iconic when they have a house who is 20 plus more years, full of all icons? They have developed this brand that because they themselves didn't do it, that they don't deserve that icon that they are for being able to see talent, nurture it, and build a house. So the standards of what that looks like has to change. There are people in our community who do community work, who have mentored, who have helped people with homelessness, deal with around suicide prevention, deal with, speaking engagements and doing things, touring all over the places to teach ballroom history and do things. So their experience to ballroom, this is a person that people turn to for the last couple of decades for information. So their contribution to ballroom is not worthy of us recognizing them. There has to be a way. And I do like the word that you just used. These unspoken heroes, unsung heroes. Because actually in my ballroom group, I used to always do a post of these unsung heroes.
I remember.
These people that we all know their names, but they never was really recognized on the same levels and stuff. But when I say their name, everybody knows who those people are, right? And so there's a whole bunch of those unsung heroes. Let me give you a good example. This is going to give you a kiki as well. Do you know who Cleopatra is? She passed away now.
I don't.
Miss Cleopatra, honey, she's been walking. She used to walk. Child, she goes back to at least the 80s and the 90s. I remember seeing her walk. And baby, the first time that she finally won, and she jumped up and down like the whole crowd was just so happy for her. But baby, she used to be a kiki, honey. She would walk every category. She never really took it. She didn't take it to heart. She would walk labels. She'd be like, my thing is Old Navy. And she'd be like, honey, it's a label, and stuff like that, So she was always that fun in the ball. You can't tell me that she is just not iconic. Everybody knew who Cleopatra was.
Gospel. We have so
Gina
many
Gospel. I definitely know
Gina Gospel's another one. Another one.
My daughter Kia, which was Scandalacia at the time. It was so many. When I say we put together so many people that gave us a lot. Selvin was another one. But Selvin, even though Selvin walked and the commentator, Selvin was a hoot. And so we've had some very good people in ballroom. And I've always been the one, because that's just how my life has been. And that I hated about ballroom, I never liked reading or shade. And to come into a culture that's what it's founded on almost, it takes a back, because I never like to be picked on. I don't pick on people. It doesn't make me feel good. So how am I going to be a part of something that is based and rooted in that? And so I always attach myself to the underdog, because I've always felt like I was the underdog in a sense. So I like to uplift those people, and we could tackle and take down the institution. That's how I'm always like, I got the big mouth, I'm powerful. And I understood that as a young child, that I might have to fall on the sword, but my mouth is bigger than any mountain. And I shoot for the stars.
Eunice Cleopatra, remember I told you about that name. Ask anybody that's old school ballroom who've been around for some time to say Eunice Cleopatra, and they will laugh. They all got a story for you about that. And so there's so many others. And Shannon, I agree with you. I don't go out of my way to, hurt anybody or be shady and stuff to people. But I'm quick to tell people, because I choose a path not to read, don't get it twisted. Don't think that I cannot serve it right back to you the way you give it. But I make a choice that that's not the way that I want to live my life. And then I'm older too. I'm 59. And I think that a lot of times people, don't take that for granted because I don't present that.
Because you don't look it. Let's just say that.
But I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of, I don't boast on my page and I don't write all this stuff, but I have done so many things in my life that I've set myself out to do that people said I couldn't do. I wanted to be in magazines. I'm a big, dark-skinned Black man that don't look like what models have done, but I've been in Vogue. I've been in W magazine. I've been cited for my fashion acumen by some of the biggest photographers have stopped me on the street. So I've always had an eye for fashion. I've always had an eye for knowing what works for me and my body and how to do that. And so I'm proud that I was able to push myself into a place where everybody kept saying I can't do it. I've done it. I've worked with almost every designer you can think of, behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. I'm proud of that because it made other people that look like me and feel like me, that we don't meet the narratives of everybody else, to know you can do it too. I come from the Bronx. I didn't come from a place of money, and all of that, but I found a way that every time that I went somewhere or I was going someplace to represent as if I looked like $1 million like everybody else and that was going to be in that room. So it's those things where I feel like where ballroom still can be aspirational, because as many times as we keep telling people, child, I don't see it, and don't do it, don't take that stuff to heart. It's about what you feel and what you know. I never let anybody tell me what my capacity was going to be for me or put me in a box. In fact, the more that you tried to push me in a box was the stronger my attitude was. I'm going to show you, bitch, that I'm going to do this. It may not happen today or tomorrow, but it will happen. And that's it. Persevere.
So you know, I have a question now, because this is leading me. This is sickening. So with all the knowledge that you all have right now, with knowing a ballroom in and out and experiencing it for all these years, if you could tell somebody that's coming into the ballroom scene brand new, and this is I feel like sometimes the question sounds very corny or cliche, but understand that a lot of people who are here right now are new to ballroom, and they're taking your words very, very seriously. They respect what you guys have done and what you've said tonight so far. So what would you say to somebody coming in, or even to the younger self, the new you coming into ballroom with all the things that you know now? What would you say to the young you coming into the ballroom scene?
I'm gonna let Shannon go first.
Listen.
Listen.
You know, can you spell that out? Listen. When I say, even I'm telling myself, I'm an icon in ballroom, but can I tell y'all something? I still listen to icons before me. I don't know everything. I don't try to think that I know everything. Sometimes you have to listen to other people to get better results. For instance, when I won 5,000, I listened to Harold Balenciaga to win that category. He chose my music. He was like, no, ballroom, you need to connect with the audience. And he was so right. People still today was like, I love that song that you played when you came out. The Purpose Ball last year with Mary J. Blige that Lawrence gave, Raquel edited my look. She told me, she was like, you walk a face. It's too much fashion. You always do too much fashion when you walk face, and people lose your face in the moment because it's too much. Everything is always sickening, but it's too much for them to grasp. Get it? Listen. And when I say I edited, and she was like, when I edited, she was like, I love it. She to the point where she was like, oh, I'm going to borrow that. I love that. So listen, nothing changes in ballroom. The only thing that changes is new individuals coming in. It's the same thing, generation after generation after generation. And the blueprint has already been laid. RuPaul tell y'all this because y'all love Drag Race. Why y'all think Drag Race has been so successful? Because Ruth said, why do I need to go out there and change the formulation? It's already been done. I'm going to take Ballroom and put it on TV and just throw drag queens up there in the categories. Nothing's changed. All these seats is the same. It's just different individuals. Clock it. So listen, learn, and don't try to be what somebody else has done. Find your voice. Finding your voice will make you an icon. It makes you special. And it don't take a long time. I mean, it's not instant. It took me a long time to find my voice. I knew who I was, but when I found it and it blossomed, I'm known face as fashion. And my inspiration, who I can say the next person that I stand beside, is Stephanie Milan. And that's what I appreciate about myself, that I could take that legacy that she started, that she couldn't, it wasn't materializing because ballroom just was not letting her get it, that I was able to add on to it. So somebody's going to come along after me and add on to it.
Right.
That the ballroom will get it. So listen.
I love that. And I love the story. Lee, same question.
All I'm going to say, amen, to listen.
Okay, amen.
One of the things that's amazing that what Shannon just said is, for me, is that I feel like I'm never too old to learn, right?
Oh my
Things
goodness.
are still changing in this world. You know, my kids still joke with me. I get my phone and I hold on to my phone and I can't work half the things on my phone, right? I still got to go to my kids and go, how do I do this and how do I do that? So it's not about because I'm older and I'm this and I'm that, that I feel like I still can't learn. So even I challenge myself, even when I'm going to walk a category, sometimes I partner and work with people because they're going to take me out of my comfort zone. And that's a good thing sometimes, to push yourself. And you have to be able to listen sometimes and take direction and stuff. The second thing that Shannon said that I am a firm believer in is you've got to find your own groove. Because the people that will always most be remembered are the people that came and the people that set themselves apart, right? So I'm saying that to say that every single person that's in Ballroom had a reason they were inspired to be a part of Ballroom. Your story about why you were walking balls or why you were in Ballroom, to Shannon's story, to my story, it's all going to be different. However, we have learned the blueprint, as Shannon said, of the categories we walk. We have learned what it takes to get our tens, to make it up on that runway. And then we've also learned how to succeed when we're walking on that. So that's going to be a journey. It's going to take time. Not everybody's going to hit that runway and be running with it. You understand? And everybody's going to be a star. But I think what has also happened, we have a lot of people who want to follow people so much. And I say that it's a bad and it's a good thing. You have people that teach classes. Let me give you an example. And sometimes when I'm judging, I can tell exactly who taught you. I know when Leonie has taught somebody. I know when Danielle has taught somebody. I know when Pony has taught somebody, because they didn't just take the foundation of what they learned. They're emulating everything that they've done, as opposed to, let me take bits and pieces of what I've learned here, the foundation of how to execute things, and make it my own statement. You have got to make your own statement. If you really want to succeed in Ballroom, learn how to make your own statement. Even though people may not see it at first, oh, trust me, they will get it. Because if it's a statement, they will get it. It may not happen all right away, but they will get it. And I think my biggest thing all the time, I think to young people is, stop worrying if your story matches this person's story, or your journey in Ballroom may not match that person's journey. It doesn't matter if you get there first or you get there second. We all can get there if you are consistent and you have found your reasons for being here. Because we know Ballroom could be also, can put people off. It could be hard, it could be mean. It can be all of those things. It could be shady. It could be politics. And if you have not centered yourself to understanding why you are even participating in it for yourselves, or from the beginning, it can turn you off from it. So you have to be centered. You have to understand you're here for this. And the last part that I'm going to say for this is, don't forget to have fun. Because if you're not having fun and you're not enjoying yourself, and it's just stressing you out, and it's becoming this thing where it's become so stressful that it feels like it's work and you're not getting any enjoyment out of it, or you're not getting out of it what you feel like you've invested or you put into it, the passion is not there, that burns people out quite quickly, and that's sad to me when I hear young people that got so much talent saying to me, I gave Ballroom 5 years, I gave Ballroom 10 years, and I'm going, why? You should be able to come back, take a break. If you need to take a break, you should be able to come back and do it on your time, on your terms. Never let anybody feel like, oh, child, well, she been away, blah, blah, blah. You know how the kids can do. And that's the shade. The shade is to cut you down any way they can. They used to always tell me, child, he's club. Child, he was a spectator for years. He wasn't a blah, blah, blah. And if I bought into those narratives, I would not still be here today. Yes. If I let them get in my head and make me feel like I'm less than them or anybody else that are getting up there to walk. Everybody's had their stories. And some of the same people, I'm looking at them, I'm like, wait a minute. It took me to understand some of them been away for years. They was in jail, they was incarcerated. So how are you knocking me about
hello
when you know that you were away and you wasn't there? Right. So you've got to be able to understand yourself first and why your reasons, not anybody else's reasons. So I tend to ask kids when they come into my house, I ask them, why do you want to be a part of Ballroom? What did you like about Ballroom? Where do you see yourself in Ballroom? How do you think you're going to fit in? What categories? Now, I know I can look at you and I could say, child, I see it for you. You're drag face, you're fashion, you're this and that. But I tend to let people make those choices themselves. If I had to let people tell me, honey, I would be voguing up and down. I'd probably be broken right now, child, because the way the Vogue is today, you understand? But I knew I wasn't a battle cat. Yes, I've danced and with everybody that you could think of that's iconic. We've done shows together, performances together, but that wasn't who I was. That wasn't what I wanted to do. I love the fashion aspect. I love to create something and have an eye for something. I could see something that nobody else could see, and I wanted to bring that to light. So I always say to them, I may see this in you. What do you see for yourself? You're the one that's got to get up there in front of 1,000 people and sell it and make it happen, right? You've got to make that star. You got to become that star. So I think that that's really important, is to understand your own journey, why you're there, and listen, be able to take advice.
Yes, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So it is 8:30, and we're going to open up the Q&A just now, but I have to comment on what you both said just now. Listening, oh my goodness, man, that is the simplest answer that anybody could have given. And I wish that even for me coming into Ballroom that I would have just taken that on too, because I'm just so competitively driven, right? So I'm trying to prove people wrong. I can prove you wrong. Don't tell me this, don't tell me that. But then if I listen, the journey could have been faster. Not saying that where I ended up is still, I'm going to end up, right? But it would have just been different. People are speaking to you not because they're disagreeing with you or something like that. They're trying to uplift you. They want to see you get there faster. In fact, I don't want none of my kids to have to wait as long as I had to, or to work as hard as I have to, when you can just do it smarter, right?
Your
So
coach.
that's that listening. Pardon?
That the best coaches are going to steer you in the best direction.
Hello.
And that's what a lot of people don't be realizing, is that when you find somebody, and I know we all have stories. One thing that I love about Ballroom is not the walking. It's the beautiful individuals that I have come across. And it's unfortunately that is the angels that we have lost. I have met some of my best individuals from Ballroom in my life. And I cherish that close to my heart, because the memories that you have with them. Ballroom is way more than just walking. We could talk about a whole lot of it. It's way more than just walking, but the walking it adds on to you to just talk about the fun moments and the times that you had with each other, and the preparation, getting up. Lee talked about how the latex ball, you got two people that's walking and you're not going to walk. I don't think you should sit out. I think you should walk, because it allows them to see, for them to be a part with you. That's a memory that you guys will have. That's what I miss that I used to have. Me, Mariah, Trigony, Kaya, Gia, all of us getting ready together to walk. We all in different houses. We're sisters. We're not competing against each other. And we win, we splitting the money. It's not about the win. We're having fun. We're all getting ready. That's the beautiful memories that we have. That I don't know about what y'all young kids are doing these days, because I'm off to doing something else. But I don't see much of that anymore, because you're too busy having your team. Baby, you don't have to. You could be friends with other people in other houses. You can bounce ideas. If they are really your people, they're not going to sabotage you. Y'all can walk and y'all can compete against each other, and it's no tea. No tea. I tell people all the time, you can see my look before I walk, and it's still going to be disgusting. You will not even think about how I'm going to put it together when I walk. That's how much confidence I have in my looks and the power of myself.
That's right.
And I think that you're gonna go ahead, Lee. You talk.
I was gonna say I have such respect. Me and G that's like my brother. And even though he's in the house of extravaganza, and I'm here, because it does not matter. And the same thing consists of so many people. I love what everybody brings to my category. So there ain't no shade about it. For me, it's like, and sometimes we all could be getting dressed in the same area. And I'm like, oh, that bitch is turning it. I love it. But, we still know what we're going to get up on that runway. And of course, to me, Bizarre has a lot to do with presentation, more so than just the look, right? So it's always about, I can't wait to see the dramatics that's coming along with the whole thing. I love it. And I'm so close to so many people. And yeah, we're in different houses. It doesn't matter. You know, my brothers and sisters in the house of Estrava, you know, my family that's in the house of Ninja and stuff. I can go on down the list. You understand? You know, Michael Robeson that's my brother, you know, Margiela. I can name so many, you know, Michael Haynes, that's my brother, you know, Ebony, you understand? So, and we are close. We talk all the time. We do things together. We not have to be in the same house. And it's not no competition and it's not no shade. May the best man win, and we hug it out and love each other, you understand? And I think that rivalry was another thing we didn't really talk about, but rivalry in ballroom sometimes inspires you to be better. It doesn't have to inspire you to want to fight and knock that person and cut this person. No, it should inspire you to say, okay, all right, bitch, you got me this time. I'll meet you here, same place next year. This ball will be here again. You understand? And we could kiki and laugh about it.
Yes, I love that you said that because I'm a father, I'm Father Mugler, and I talk to my Mugler kids because, you know, there is a reputation with Mugler. Muglers, people think that we're a snobby house and whatever. Their interactions, whatever. I'm not trying to take away from people's interactions and experience with the house of Mugler, right? But under my fatherhood, I brought there to be a different feeling when it comes to Mugler, because then when we walk, we can truly engage the way that we want to, and truly, for lack of better, like how you talked about, I could just imagine the kind of conversation that you face girls must have had in the back to know that, girl, we're gonna fuck these girls up and like we're gonna give them a show, that you can talk like that with your friends and really come out there and give this, for lack of a better word, over the top attitude. It might seem shady to the viewers or whatever, but because we trust our relationship that we have and we know who we are, that we know this is a show, then we can come back and we can, you know, hug it out after you talk about kicking after lead. That shit, to me, that shit is so epic. Like Jasmine, shout out to my daughter, Jasmine Mugler. She just won Femmes Runners in Chicago. I asked her after, I'm like, did you talk to the girls after, whatever? She's like, yeah, I hugged all of them and we spoke after in the change room. We took information down. We were talking about how beautiful each other are and whatever. That kind of talk, because I feel then when she gets back into walking again, whatever, let's say they get their lick back, whatever, you're not going to hold it in any kind of way because you guys already have a relationship that surpasses the shade on the runway, right? And I think that makes it, I don't know if people like really take in that a lot of people in ballroom know each other, have interact, you know what I'm saying? Like in the same circles, people just think that it's always opponents, combative, us over here, you over there, Aga's over here, Mugler's over there, SOULJA's over there, whatever over there, right? But there is inner workings that kind of makes this all work in the kind of way that you're seeing it work. But I really wish that people would kind of just get past that whole us over by ourselves, like it's a gang, right? Like we're just groups from when we go to the ball, but like I can kiki, like we travel, doesn't matter what house, we travel like a city sometimes, we travel like a country. That's what we do. We think of it like that. So that way it kind of cuts the drama of just Mugler as Delcor, this and that, whatever. So I'm just glad to hear y'all say that too, because that makes a big difference. And to hear you all say that, I think that just reaffirms to us, like, yes, you know, continue to kind of be this community underneath it all, right? Like remain this community, remain some form of community, so that way when we do, you know, become competitive, it's fun, we can let it out, we can blah, 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 but we always going to come back to that place where we know if we need each other, we always got each other's back. And that's the beauty.
I want to say this to you too. Michael Robeson, you know, your dad.
Yes.
You should have him, because one of the things that I'm going to uplift him all the time, he does these retreats here. Other houses, he takes them on retreats. And I've always felt like that is something he really should expand on and take it to Canada and take it to other places where he takes all the houses and does, you know, it's so special, especially when he does it like regional.
Yeah.
Because in those houses, when we all get together and we're away from the scene or a ball,
yes,
and we let our hair down,
yes,
and we're able to talk to each other and hear the human side to each other, everyone's journey, everyone's story, the things that have hurt us, our path and stuff, you connect to people on a different level. So then when you see those people on the runway and you understand and you know their stories,
it's different.
You're rooting for them because you're like, I know what this had to go through to do that. And that's amazing. And I love my sister for that. And I'm going to say that that's amazing. And one of the things that I always kiki about, like everybody knows that, you know, I do shows, I still do nightlife stuff, you know, I've done all this. So I'm always like collecting stuff because, you know, the kids will let me have it. I just saw you in the show with that. Didn't you just wear that here and there? So the need for me to always have to find something new or find 10,000 ways to recreate something over and over again or repurpose something.
Right.
So it's funny because, you know, sometimes G will have something, whatever child, he'll call me up. G has given me so much stuff. And it's never been, well, I'm an extravaganza and you know, you're a soldier and we can't share resources. Like that's my brother. I could call him up today and say, child, what you got to get ready to throw away, child? What you doing? You know, I know that he comes so many things. And people call me up all the time, you know, and say, you know, can I borrow this effect or whatever? I'm going to be walking in this thing. I've never told somebody, well, you're not in my house and I can't give you an effect or I can't help you to get ready. So this is why I say that this false thing that the houses that we have to be at each other. Yeah, we can meet each other on the runway, you know, and I could smile and say, okay, bitch, let's do it. I'll meet you in the back. Right. And, you know, you hit that runway. Right. You can be about it and go, John, you party with that
as long as you're not walking against one of my kids.
You know,
right?
And so, that's what I'm not gonna do.
Well, see, and that's one of the things that I'm telling you also about, Shannon. I agree with that. You know, so I have some kids that are in other houses, and like I said, and sometimes and it's a particular ball, the latex ball, where two of my sons came to me to help them prepare, and I was supposed to walk. My costume and everything was sitting right there, but because I took the time to nurture and make sure that they were right and everything, I did not walk. And it was amazing that my son came to me, he was like, no, I wanted you to walk. I wanted to meet you on the runway. That's a compliment for me. But I also feel a certain kind of way that if I'm going to be mentoring you the right way and letting you know that you had my attention, you had my full thought process on what was going to help you to succeed, I don't want it to be taken away from, you know, because, you know, that happens in ballrooms. Here comes the icon, so-and-so is coming and whatever. The crowd is already starting to go. I don't want that. I want you to have your moment. You work to this and I helped you to
That's
get
why
there.
they come out first.
Yeah, absolutely. But so whenever I'm walking and when my house is in my house, absolutely. They all go out first and then I come out. That's when we're storming the category. But I'm talking about yes.
But can I tell you something, as somebody who wasn't an icon, that was lower down on the pole and coming up, you know how that makes you feel? It's a pride. You're so prideful standing there watching your icons. The
Absolutely.
people that the crowd goes crazy for. Just sit there and watch. You know what it does to somebody? I'm going to be there one day. My turn is to be there one. And the day that you get that, y'all, when I tell y'all, I'm gonna speak. When I tell y'all, there's nothing like the feeling when you make that ballroom crowd lose their mind.
That's right.
It is the first time it happened to me, I didn't hear it. And I can go back and watch it and see, oh my God. But the second time it happened, I heard everything. And Lawrence told me, he was like, I never have heard since Raquel the ballroom lose their mind like that. Mm-hmm. It's not a high, but it's an appreciation that, because for a long time, like Lee said, for a long time, after the first Mugler ball I lost, I said to myself, there's nothing that I can do that this ballroom scene would appreciate. I felt that for a very long time. And it took me and it's sad, but it took people outside of ballroom to appreciate me, to make me see that my living wasn't in vain. And I appreciated that. And I know there's so many people, and Harold told me this a long time ago, it's not the people that you're out here walking that's going to appreciate. It's going to be the generation after you that's going to appreciate what you have done.
So much.
And I appreciate that I know that hard work didn't go unnoticed. It wasn't in vain. And I did what I needed to do. And I'm glad I stayed the course.
Yes.
Because that course has given me back my dream that I had as a child. And it's all because of ballroom.
And that, let me tell you, that dream also, that moment, and all the moments that you do is like you're saying, those things sound cliche. I just like, oh, the next generation, whatever. But I'm telling you, I've seen it as somebody in a generation after you, and I've seen the admiration and the appreciation that people in my generation and younger look up to you with, like the reverence, right, for the work that you've put in. So like that comment that Harold made, it might not be the girls beside you, but Jesus mercy, look at the views, look at the comments. I'm sure you see them, how you have impacted just by getting on that runway and walking these balls. You have made people believe that them too can do it. You are now that role model for people that they saw you, they could, like, bitch, no, I can do it. And then to hear your story after just hearing your story, like, oh, bitch, nah, I could really fucking do it. And it doesn't matter what the fuck I've been through, but sorry for swearing because I get passionate, sorry. Right? But it's like, it doesn't matter what I've been through. It's like, it's never too late. Look how amazing she is. Look at what she's become. Look at what she's done and done for herself. It's just, you're a living inspiration. And I'm not trying to just say that I'm not being corny or whatever. You truly are an inspiration. I've seen it with my eyes, how you light up a room. And it's just magical to see. If you guys haven't had a chance to see these clips that she's talking about, even at the Mugler ball, the epicness of that first Mugler ball. I know the second one was hot too, but I'm talking about the first right now. That first one, okay, when you even translate the hair, all these things. Oh my God, Shannon.
Let me tell y'all,
the room. Woo.
And you will never know. You will never know what it. And I'm gonna tell. I just want to tell you because y'all need to hear these stories behind that moment. If y'all haven't been following me, I talked about recently. If you see my saga on social media, I talk about I had to flee my home. You remember this ball was in November. I just left my home and I was going through almost being raped or killed at that moment. Ballroom knew nothing about that. We don't know what's going on in people's lives. I was displaced out of my home. I had to figure it out. This ball coming up, I didn't know if I was going to walk. And then it just happened. I pulled that look together within 2 weeks. And I'm just new to the house of Balenciaga. This is my first time walking a $5,000 category in this house. I went to Lauren's salon. Raquel was sitting there. I asked her, Raquel, can you help me on this category? I would love your input. And she gave me crickets. She gave me crickets because, I wasn't upset. I was taken aback because I'm like, I'm coming to you for help. You're not helping me. But I understood why she did it later on is because she knew I can do it and she wanted me to do it on my own. And she wanted to sit back and be proud that I can get there. And so I'm sitting there and I created my own hair. I was sitting there sewing the night before the ball, this gown together.
Sick.
Going to get on a flight the same day of the ball. Like all of it's just falling in place. God rest his soul. Rico was on the phone with me. He was just coming home from federal prison. I had taken him to federal prison because I've been there. So I walked him through that. Y'all don't know all these stories about how our lives just intertwine around each other, that we are helping each other through life stuff and still walking balls. I get out there and walk that ball. When I say it, because it holds a special place because he's no longer here. He's got killed. But I walked that ball with nobody's help. I walked that ball with nobody's help. I want y'all to see these tears because y'all, that's what Ballroom is about. You blood, sweat, and tears to get there. I walked that ball with nobody's help. I did not have the backing of my house. But do y'all know after I walked that ball and that Ballroom lost their mind? My house has rallied behind me every step of the way ever since. Ballroom has rallied around me ever since.
Right.
It's one time, one moment. Your moment will come, but you have to keep going. Even though I felt like losing, that nothing that I could do would satisfy Ballroom. But I didn't know at the time that I was laying my foundation, that it was going to make me even bigger and better. For every time I lost, I gained way more than a winner. Every time I lost, I gained more than anybody else in Ballroom. Every time they shaded me, I gained more than everybody could imagine. So those times that you think you are being counted out, those times that you're lost, them times that people tell you no, I'm telling y'all, that is God telling you, I got something better for you.
Yes.
He got something greater for you. Just stay the course. He's going to lay it at your doorstep. Just have to be prepared for it.
I'm feeling that so much. Like I'm fighting back the tears because I think of everything you said, how much I can relate to it. And as I've said earlier, I fought letting the demons get into my head of people always telling me what I can and can't do. But, it was the behind the scenes stuff. It was people that was not part of the ballroom community that uplifted me, that I had the talent to do all of those things. But when I got to ballroom, they just kept trying to, shut me down. And a lot of the things that, that I'm more vocal about today than I was, all of those years ago, I'm a 3-time cancer survivor. And so for over 20 something years, people have no idea all of the times that I have been in and out of the hospital, dealing with it, dealing with chemo and radiation. I mean, I'm talking 6 months here and, and 3 or 4 months here. And then me personally making a choice to put my 2 feet on the floor and get up and still live and not be mentally beaten by all of the physical stuff that's happened to him. I'm talking about burns on my body from radiation and all of those things to push through to get to a place in a community that still was trying to act like they weren't trying to see the talent that everybody else was telling me, oh my God, you can do this. This is great. And this is great. And it took one time, like you said, I got chopped one time at a latex ball. And it was actually by Ross, who I looked up to so much. And I'm gonna tell you behind the scenes after that, he apologized to me later. I used to see Ross all the time out by Port Authority and stuff because he worked in the neighborhood like I did. And we would, everybody would hang out there where Michael Haynes used to work there all the time, Michael Ebony.
Yeah,
and
I remember.
he chopped me one time, and everybody, when I tell you that whole ball was like, like you heard the whole hush go over the whole ballroom. But I was so caught up in my feelings about it, like, what? Give me a break. I just did and delivered something that nobody else did. I didn't pick something that was obvious. I just turned this category and I really was feeling it. It was my friend, my little brother, Vonald Law, who was like, you need to go back and watch on the Ballroom Throwbacks on the YouTube clip. Everybody in that ball went up for you and they were upset that you had gotten chopped. But in my moment, I could not feel that. And from there, I'm telling you, when I began to realize sometimes your biggest moments can actually also be a chop because some things are so subjective, but you got to look past it. You got to push past it. Had I been closed-minded and stayed in my feelings like, oh, this shit is just not going to work. I spend too much money, and from bizarre category, we got a right to feel that. Do you know how much money we spend in sometimes to walk that category, and then they want to turn around and not even offer money for our category or offer us $100 or $200? Baby, that was just the material, not the transportation to get it there and all the other things that go into. It's like you want us to land an airplane on that runway sometimes.
Okay.
Just for that. Am I lying? You expect the biggest category you expect to see in the ball is the bizarre category, right? And so it has gone way beyond where it started at because it's really a fashion category. It's about creating a look, a bizarre look or a bizarre look. it has gone beyond that. It's become this whole theatrical presentation situation. And you want to give me $100, baby? That wasn't even the needles, baby. So, like, you understand? And so when you get shut down and you know you done put so much and so much money into that process, yeah, it can take you. But I also say to the kids, it's a way to persevere. Because a lot of times, like I said, what Shannon just said so eloquently, we don't know everybody's story. We don't know the stories of the journeys that people took to get them to that runway, to make that. And the fact that people now can ask me and they can appreciate my behind the scenes stories of telling them, baby, I just got out of the hospital 5 weeks before that ball, and I was determined that I was going to get myself together there. People who watched me on when I was in the hospital for 2 months when I had COVID, and I was walking with a cane and a walker, to turn around and say, oh, no, this is not taking me down. You understand? And it was the friends like Vaughn Lord to pick up the phone and call me and say, bitch, that better be your prop. I want to see that walker be, and stuff like that, and laugh about it. Like I can laugh one time of going out with G. And I remember G, when G was walking past this thing, we saw this thing in the garbage can. I remember G was like, And G picked it up and put it in his a cart and stuff like that. And just the idea that, you could take something. It was the people that was in my head going, come on now, you could see past that and you can keep going. And it's my personal journey. And sometimes it does bring me to tears because people don't know. They don't know what it's like to have dealt with. I had male breast cancer. I didn't even know that men could get breast cancer. I had to have a mastectomy. If anybody even tapped me on my shoulder, the pain reverberated between my whole body because we don't have breast tissue. So all of those stories that I had to overcome those things, to still get up, to still do community work, to still put on Black Pride, to still get up to walk a ball. Nobody don't know that. So when they give me the shade or they say, nasty things about it, no, I'm not going to address. I'm not going to get on live. I'm not going to address the negativity because then that's me buying into it. And I'm not going to give it more power than it deserves. I know my story. I know what I've been doing and what I've gone through.
That's why it's important us to tell it.
Exactly.
That's why we have to tell our story, Lee, because this is why the work that you're doing, you're trying to go back and find those stories so that you can tell it. If we leave this earth, that's why I'm in a position right now that I am in. I refuse to leave this earth and allow somebody to be able to tell my story. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to tell it authentically because I'm the only person that knows it. I lived it. And I'm going to tell you all the good juicy details.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell it like you.
I'm gonna tell it. That's why Jack calls me Tough Steak all the time. Everybody was wondering where that name came from because he knows how many times I've been in and out of the hospital and all those times and all that stuff. And then he'd turn around and see me someplace and he'd be like, Tough Steak, like you still walking, you still here. And I love that Jack has done that, And some of my best moments came from Jack giving me a name when I got on the runway. Here come the Caterpillar people. I wasn't even thinking about that, child. That wasn't inspiration when I got up there and I was walking bizarre. But he gave it some name. Next thing you know, everybody in the audience is chanting, Caterpillar people, Caterpillar people. And I'm like, really?
That's how Jack is, though. I love that. I love that.
The world loves, y'all remember the scene at the end of Pose when Blanca was in the wheelchair and how the ballroom just loved it. The world sees that, but we actually live that. Do you know how many people we have? I've gone to the hospital and picked somebody up and taken them to the ball so they can commentate off of their deathbed, which you would think will be their deathbed, and they get up and they go to the ball and commentate. You don't know these things, what people go through to get to the ball, but we know it and celebrate it. That's why I was a stickler by saying, I'm not about to sit here and celebrate these celebrities that want to be LGBTQIA friendly or whatever on this show when I know what y'all do every day, but nobody celebrate. I'm celebrating y'all because y'all are the heroes, unsung heroes, because y'all get up. You risk your life every day to go out here. They just do it because they are popular. They wasn't doing it before. Right. And it goes over people's heads that I'm here to celebrate you and your accomplishment. The accomplishment is you're being alive when they say you don't supposed to be.
Right.
That's right.
So
I appreciate that. And I appreciate all the conversation so far that we've been having. Mind you, I believe in, I'm a spiritual person, so I like for things to happen as they should have been. And I was not going to cut off any of the conversation just to have like random questions coming in. But now I think that this is an appropriate time that we could open up to the floor for people to ask the icons some questions. And I know that we have a couple of bizarre folks in the room. So I will, before I get you, TD, because I know you're, that's TD's hand, yeah. Father noticed Poseida's hand. I will ask, what was the first time that you saw Bizarre Lee? Who, if throw out some names as well, because I heard Shannon. I'm all about the names and stuff like that. A lot of us in Canada are about research and stuff like that. So even just to hear the names and stuff like that, we're gonna hold these names in our heart. So, and you said Ross and you said G, but who were you seeing when you first came out? Maybe even in 1985, or when did you first see it? What was it? What was it for you?
So it wasn't when I first went to a ball. When I first went to a ball, I really was just amazed that everybody actually was done. I like that. Everybody was dressed. Everybody came looking like, they were out at an event. And even if it wasn't about if they were walking or not walking, they came done. So that, first of all, got me. I love the way everybody put their looks together and they got their hair together, and in the 80s has its own recognizable style and hairstyles and stuff like that at the time. So I was very impressed by that. I also was impressed that everybody was so knowledgeable about, because I was at the time working in the fashion industry, working in retail. And so it was amazing that everybody was up on this designer and that designer and models, and the conversations that was being had, everybody had references about stuff. So that was very, very, I don't know, it was appealing. It was appealing for me to sit back and observe and to just listen. So I was kind of shy too, because I necessarily, like I said, I didn't identify as being gay. In fact, I was still married at that time, and I just loved how welcoming everybody was. So first attraction for Ballroom to me was that nobody asked me if I was gay or not gay or whatever my situation was. It just was a welcoming space to come there, and I engaged. Willie introduced me, and all of a sudden I had an instant family. Everybody was like, "That's my brother," and this was here. After I started seeing everybody out at the clubs and at the party, "Hey, brother, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Hey, uncle, hey, this, hey, that." So I love that. I didn't have that dancing hip hop. I didn't have that when I was breakdancing. Here I am in this community. All of a sudden, I'm embraced. But I remember seeing. I remember seeing Eric Christian Bizarre. This was like the late '80s, I would say early '90s. And I remember seeing him walk, and then I remember seeing Ross. And I just remember how amazing the costumes and stuff was. So I consistently would kind of go to the balls, but those two stood out. Ross in particular, because I was able to ask Ross a question. And that question was, why sometimes when I see on balls and I see these categories, I see Bizarre spelled Bizarre, and sometimes I see it spelled Bazaar.
Right.
Is it simply that, no shade, but is it simply that some people don't know how to, can't read or don't know how to spell what the category that they want to have, so they just associate it with whoever the promoter is on the event, they spell it the way that they know how to spell it, right? And Ross was kind of like saying to me, well, that's not the case. It really these categories came from this, and there was something called, sequence, bead sequence. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get it all wrong. But there was other categories that Avis and them used to walk. The girls would walk, and it was about creating these.
I was gonna say beads and feathers. Is it feathers, maybe?
Yeah, feathers, beads, and sequins. Something like sequins, feathers, beads, something like that. I'm not sure if I'm giving the right order for it right now, but I do have all that stuff written down. And so he talked about that, and he was like, so sometimes those fantastic costumes and things that they would create and had these huge headpieces and stuff that they really were bizarre, right? Bazaar. It's really about creating a look. It's not an everyday look. It's not necessarily an avant-garde look. It's about taking a look and taking it over the top where you have excess amount of beads to it. And a look may have feathers, but they got excess amount of feathers. And it's about different patterns coming together to make this amazing look. And he was like, this is what this Bizarre category really was about. It was about creating this whole over the top look. And then he said, But then he was like, you had these people, these other kids that would be walking, and he's like, to be honest, he was like, they were just strange anyway. They were just strange, and they would put things together, and it was weird. And he was like, so somebody just decided to kind of come up with this idea of a bizarre category, something that really was just strange. It was weird. It was a look, and you got into it. You know, you looked at, you may not have understood. It wasn't something that you necessarily had to understand or you necessarily had to get their concept, but you could appreciate what they had put together. You understand? And then he went further to say that there was something called futuristic bazaar and futuristic bizarre. And then he was like, so the category has expanded itself. It's become all these different things. But he was like, unfortunately, so many people don't know the difference. You know, and they don't know the difference between the spelling, that it all starts looking the same. And that it doesn't, he was like, you know, where it is today, where it doesn't matter if you put bizarre or bazaar on it, people are going to still bring it the same way. As opposed to before, they really were two distinctive categories that have kind of merged.
Beautiful to see that again, actually, though.
Yeah, it's merged into one. So I had the opportunity. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was like, do you like that it's merged into one? Do you think it would be nice to have a day again? Because now that I don't know if it's just for me, but I mean, like, I'm a person that loves to uphold traditions and stuff like that, right? So I could only imagine like maybe a bazaar walk. I mean, you know, this is happening surrounding the bazaar ball this year. Who knows, maybe by next year we can have two separate categories at the bazaar ball where it's like grand prize bizarre versus BAZAAR for the grand prize, and you know, having to look different. But of course that takes some education, and you know, the judges have to know what they're looking for. But I think that within a year's time that we can, you never know, aim to have that idea. Just
for me, it was because of Ross being that figure, and he was still around, and he had a house, and he was still teaching people about it. And the fact that he was really tough on me about it. You know, I remember one time he chopped me and G because the outfit that we had when walking the category, we had metallic in it. I had on something gold and G had on silver, and he chopped us because he was like, that's futuristic. It's not this. So the chops were educational. They were part of the process for me to learn. So, but with that being said, so I was raised where there was a separation between the two because Ross was not having it. You know what I mean? He taught me the difference of what was futuristic and what wasn't, and how to do this and how the presentation. And Ross used to always say to me, I told you to have a picture because everybody's not going to understand your inspiration. You are creative in your mind. You know what something could inspire you, and you're going to go and create it. And you can't think that all these judges up here on Ballroom is going to automatically get your inspiration. They're always going to get it. So he's like, have a picture. Have a picture. So he started to show me that whenever he walked or whenever his kids walked, he said, don't you always see that sometimes they come out or may come before him or whatever and have a picture to show this is what you asked for in the category. This is what I use as my inspiration. Now judge me. Now score me. What I just did. But me being hard-headed, that's why I said to listen, because I myself did not listen. So in the beginning, I used to sit there and tell Ross, no, child, if they don't get it right when I hit the floor, that means I didn't do it right. And I'm going to do it because I want them to know it from the back of the room. I had all that to say. And Ross was teaching me a lesson every time until I got it. So,
and that's your youth. That's what all the youthful people in Ballroom do.
That's what they do right now.
Try to buck the lesson. And all you have to do is listen, because that's something that I learned, and I wasn't even taught that. You know how I was taught? I was told, here go VHS tapes, learn Ballroom. That's how I learned. And one thing I learned from all the ladies from before me is that they always brought large pictures. We don't do cell phones. You won't never see me do no cell phone. I bring if you go look at my history, I always bring large pictures, because baby, you go catch it. Before you see me, you go see that picture. I've learned that from Ballroom history. You will, it keeps on generation after generation. Y'all don't do these. Have several people in your house bring little piece of paper or bring cell phones. That will instantly get you chopped. You want everybody in the ballroom to see it before they see you.
This is why I love what we're doing right here, because we're able to give testimony to the reason why we're telling these young people the same thing, because we're no different. We had to go through it and we had to learn it. So I'm here to tell people I didn't listen either when I first got up there. I was determined that because I could do this and I had done that, bitch, I was going to do it. And Ross chopped me. But the difference is Ross was able to give me a lesson and explain to me. He was like, we always think about metallics being in stuff in space and in the future and Star Wars and he gave me, and even though I didn't agree, because I felt like to us in this generation, you know, we have fabrics today that are made from paper, that are made from just biodegradable, you know, thread and different things. So what's futuristic today wasn't even around back then. And I get that, but out of respect for tradition, I didn't argue with him, because out of tradition, a lot of ballroom is based on tradition. And out of tradition, if I decide to walk this category, then I need to respect the tradition of what the rules are, right, of that category. So I may have wanted to push change, and I think I have pushed change quite a bit. I've helped people to redefine that you don't got to look like a junk man coming down a runway. If the original category was about being a look and a fashion look, and that you should be able to still create something that people can still respect when you get down the end of the runway. It should not be falling apart. It should not be looking like you just picked a bunch of things out of a garbage can and stapled it or glued it. It should not look like an after-school project that your little child in second grade created. It really should look like a fashion piece coming down there. Wherever the perspective is, it's a bazaar. And it took Ross and took me to learn the discipline to do that. And so I'm glad to say I had that journey. So when you're asking me that question, yes, because I was able to learn the difference of what futuristic was supposed to look like and the difference of what bazaar was supposed to look like. Sometimes it is hard for me when I see a category written, because in my mind, I'm thinking of those old traditions of what I'm supposed to bring. And then when I get up on that runway and I see other people, and trust me, I love everything that people bring. It'd be fabulous, but I'd be sitting there going, bitch, that ain't the category. Yes, bitch, that looks amazing, but that ain't the category. That's not what the category is asking. But I'm preaching to myself, because a lot of the judges, a lot of people that are up there, they don't know the difference. So if the judges don't know the difference and they're judging you, it's like you're speaking to who's going to get it. You understand? So I'm today I have learned to accept that bizarre and bazaar have been combined, and people look at it from a singular lens, where something that may have been two things has kind of merged into one thing. You understand? Now, with that being said, I love when I walk an old school ball. Like my father, RR, just did a ball. And the way that he wrote the bizarre category and referencing Andre, of when Andre wore the suit, and then nobody realized that until he poured water on himself and people realized it was made of paper and all of that, that people understood that it was bizarre. It wasn't bizarre, it was bizarre. And so today, it really takes somebody to understand the difference, to be able to write the category the right way. And then I go up. Then when I see the young people come up and they really execute what's being asked, trust and believe, honey, it is the best thing for me. It's never about winning or losing. I get my life when I see people come down the category and they've done it, and we got a real competition going. You understand? So yes, there is a difference, but yes, so it's two sides to that. I have accepted. I'm not a person that's stuck in the past. Right. I've accepted that this generation has brought something different. They look at that, and their ideals of what bizarre and bazaar sometimes intersect with each other. And so the categories have kind of combined. That's where we are today. I'm not going to sit there and be the only one saying, but no, it used to be this. The child, I got over that. But I will always say, in my generation, they beat me up about it. Ross was not playing.
Okay, so then I will say, I mean, there's a couple of questions here that are kind of tied into that. So the first one says, what, in your opinion, are elements that take it from costume to bazaar? And I'm assuming this is the BAZAAR. But yeah, how do you go from, what helps you go from, what elements take you from costume to bazaar?
So the most important thing about the category is understanding references and understanding fashion, right? So I've had the benefit of working behind the scenes in 4 different designers, right? Everyone from Alexander McQueen, I've done, I do a visual art stuff. So I've done visual art performances and things. And so I understand that there are certain looks, certain things that are presented on a runway at fashion shows that are not meant to actually be into the retail stores. They're there for how commercial they are to sell editorial into magazines and stuff. And some of those things, the presentation of that is extremely bizarre. You're not going to see a lady or with somebody walking down the street shooting her with ink and fire coming out of all these things. And so you've got to be able to understand that some of those things are really bizarre and they're strange and they're meant to push those buttons. That's exactly what it is. They're pushing buttons. But then there are people that wear clothes that are avant-garde, that are beyond the unusual. There are people who have a different frame of what patterns and colors that people generally may say don't go together, but you may look at a person and go, bitch, that looks fantastic on you. I may not have thought that I can wear these stripes and polka dots and this and that and all these different colors and make it work. That is bizarre. To be able to turn out a look, you can mix patterns and mix feathers with these different things and create a fashionable look that could still look like something you can walk down the street or go to a presentation and go to a show. Now, I'm going to go even further. We celebrate the Met Gala every year. And what are they doing at the Met Gala? They are presenting bizarre, right? They're taking looks. It's all about presenting things that are over the top, right? Over the top. You're on mute, Shannon. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. It used to never be like that. But
no, not in the beginning. It wasn't.
That.
It has evolved into that. You're right. You're right.
The Met Gala is just the ballroom all over again. It has
absolutely
gone from red carpet to every stage of ballroom to every category to
absolutely
the
absolutely.
bizarre.
The thing about it is that whole presentation of going up that grand staircase and everyone's looks, and some of those girls change 2 or 3 times. It's about making that moment, that presentation, what is going to do what for them? Get them editorial coverage. It's the same thing at a fashion show. Some of the things that go down that runway, it's about editorial coverage. What is going to make a moment? Isn't that what Ballroom is about? It's about what's going to hit that runway that's going to make you that moment. And so if you really understand it, yes, if you really understand Ballroom and references, then you would understand how can I take what this person is asking for and make that into something that is fashionable. So the other thing about it, to answer that question to people, is if you really understand that a bizarre look and a bizarre look is still fashion, it's still a fashion category. You are still asking for a look to come down the runway. Create a look that's bizarre, that's going to take us from out of this world. Create a bizarre look or something that's going to be celestial and take you here. Something, and bring the forest to life. Bring this and that. They're asking you to bring a look. So if you don't understand that the base root of this category is about presenting a look that you can walk down the runway with and make it down the runway, and you're just throwing things together because you're really stuck on this idea that it has to be so strange and you're not really thinking about it, it still has to be functional as a look. You're already missing so much, because that's why sometimes the kids, they fail because they work so much on gluing this and putting this and that on it. It's got too much stuff. They can't hardly walk. The thing starts falling apart. It's coming across. And at the end of the day, you're looking at it and going, I may have understood what you were trying to accomplish, but you failed because you wasn't able to walk it down the runway. Even if my kids can have to help me to get up onto the runway and I make a presentation to come out, I should be able to walk down the runway. And if you can't do that, to me, that's a fail, because you had a look. You can't even walk in it. You understand? But it's here, and there. So,
I mean, you just answered another question that was in the chat too. You just answered another question because somebody said, are there faux pas in Bizarre? And I think that you just nailed one right on the head. You just spoke about one. Not being able to walk and actually present what you're presenting. That's one of those questions. So somebody else asked, is bigger always better in Bizarre?
No, that's a fallacy. That is something that they have got in our head these days. And for me, baby, if that category is not giving me $500 or at least $500 or $1,000, give me a break. Give me a break. It goes back to the basic. And if you look back to the pioneers like a Ross, and you look at the outfits and things that he has presented, he always simply walked down the runway. Yes, today we have taken it to the next place. And so I'm going to answer that question two ways. Today, when I'm teaching people about walking bizarre, I always say that it's 50% theatrics and the other 50% is looks. It's the same with runway, right? Runway is supposed to be about your walk, but today it's about the effects. Am I right? You all know this, right? So it's the same thing with bizarre. When you get up there, they expect you to do something or something to happen, whether it's going to light up or whatever. You know, you're going to bust out of something. It's going to come into something else. If you're not giving the theatrics to your presentation, you know, you want the excitement. The excitement, you are who people are expecting to bring that extra to the ball. That is something that wasn't like that in the past, where we are today. And I personally think it's beautiful. I think it's great. I just wish we would be compensated for all of that drama we got to bring to the runway. But, you know,
but I do to the bizarre ball.
I've been trying to push $5,000 bizarre. Maybe they need to. We're tired of all the same.
Come on, Shannon, speak louder. Use that voice, Shannon. You're going to see all the Canadian girls fly out for the 5,000 USD tonight. What? So, Shannon, I have a question for you. And then, Lee, of course, you can feel free to chime in on this one. It says, as house parents, how do you define your relationship with your children? Is it unique each time? Are there any sorts of unspoken rules about it? And I think I love that question.
So one thing that nobody will be honest but me, parents do have favorite children.
Hello, it's unique each time. It's
but they're not gonna say it. So I'm gonna be honest. As parents, as house parents, or just parents in ballroom, period, you have different relationships with different people.
Yeah.
And your relationships is different. It's not, and I'm just keep it honest.
Yep.
Your relationship is more special with a person who actually knows what you're going through in real life. Somebody who is there with you through your trials and tribulations, not just to celebrate you when you're on top, but to celebrate you and see you how you pull yourself up by the bootstraps in adversity. And it actually makes your children see that they can do it too, because they're watching you how you're going to recover from whatever you're going through. Yes. I've noticed that. And this is why we have individuals in ballroom now who are the way they are and not in the best way, because they have watched other parents, how they have acted, how they have done things. And they emulating those things because they felt this is what made them successful, when that's not you. It wasn't good for them. What makes you think it's going to get you a better outcome? So we have to, as parents, we have to be mindful about those things, because I saw myself on Legendary doing that as well. Me standing up for everybody, me being the voice. I saw my kids starting trying to emulate me, and I checked them instantly, don't do what I do. I can do that. You can't. I need for you to go be quiet and do your job. Let me do it. That's why I'm in this position. You need to learn how to maneuver the best way. So when you're in these positions, that because your time will come one day to be a parent, you can know when to turn it on and turn it off. But don't be me, be better than me. So you have to answer that question. It's different. You have different relationships, but you treat everybody fairly. You treat everybody the same. No parent is perfect. And it's so funny how, we're growing up and everybody have had dissension with their parents at some point in time. And your parents didn't do everything right. But isn't it so funny how, as you get older, as being parents in ballroom, you understand a little bit more about your biological parents, that you wish that you would have gave them a little bit more grace.
Right.
And so it's like you get it later on. So I find that so funny that as no matter how old you get taught lessons.
Yes.
That's right.
Still, it comes back around to you like a boomerang, as Octavia said. You get the boomerang.
But every good leader is still a good follower. Every good leader is still every good parent is still a good child. You know, some kind of, that makes sense. So, I see there's some hands raised. A lot. There's some hands raised. And yeah. So, Father Notice Poseida, please unmute yourself. You're here at the Ballroom History panel with the icons, Shannon and Lee.
Hello, Icon. I just want to say kudos to you, Lee, for fighting cancer. I know that is not an easy road for you, as we have somebody in our ballroom scene that just fought cancer, Posh. So kudos for you and sharing your story with us. Shannon, this question is for you, my darling. I'm introduced, like I know you through my daughter's spirit. She really looks up to you. And
Spirit Balenciaga.
yes, Balenciaga now. She really wanted to join your house from the start because of you. And of just a advice that I just want to hear from you as a coming out as a femme queen. There's a lot of people who's transitioning, right? And they're still dealing with transphobia and self-discipline to just let them know that, okay, um, it's gonna take time for your meds to kick in for you to really be more kind, right? So like what advice do you have for the girls that's just starting their transitioning and having self-doubt for just, starting off or trying to be a femme queen?
Okay, well, let me say this, because so the first thing I want to say, and this is something that I was having discussion, and I can't talk too much about it. Something about our community, Ballroom, and something about the whole LGBT community is that you want respect and you want people to see you a certain way, but it's very hard for people to see other people another way. And if you don't show up, we have a big problem with, if you don't show up how collectively that this institution is trying to do, that you are against us. And for myself as a woman, I'm a Black woman first, foremost, and last. I am nothing else. And when I say that, it's not to be disrespectful to nobody else. It's not to say that nobody else exists, but I want the world to understand this is how I show up. You have it also too, and I get it. Nobody knows my life story, and I'm telling it so you get it. I have laid foundations for people to be who they are. And all I ask is that people allow me to be a Black woman in this world and be protected. And so answering your question as a Black woman, I can only answer that as that. Everybody is different. And you have to figure out what your reasoning's for. Because my reasoning and how I see things might not be the same way that you see it. And my honest kitchen table talk opinion might not align with what the narrative is being pushed. And from my time period of growing up, what I have had to endure and experience might not be the same narrative that is being pushed out here in society. So I don't want to push that or say that for people to get upset and get mad because I view things one way and somebody else view, because we all know society is changing and there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. So what I will, just to cap that off, what I will tell somebody is figure out what you want. Don't let nobody pressure you to do nothing that you don't want to do. And you have to be able to sit in silence with your decision And in that decision, you will find your answer. Everybody don't need surgery, medicine. You don't need it. Some people are natural. But you have to find, is this right for me? And then you have to make a decision what your map is for yourself. That's for everybody. Whether you're a woman, trans, gay, bisexual, whatever you choose to be, you map out your life for you and not for someone else. But as my mother said, you better do it the best you can. And you better look sickening when you come outside the door.
Okay. Put just that all of that was really, really powerful. I see a comment that Supreme Hair made is she said, like, to be unapologetic in your truth without taking on who people perceive you to be. You tell yourself who you are, what you feel, and you make that map, you lay the map out, and you say, this is how it's going to take for me to get to that place, and understand that in order for you to get to that place, you have to start at one place. You know what I mean? And appreciate who you are now. I remember a lot of my trans friends back when I was coming up, they did not need to be the most cunt, if that makes sense, right? It didn't define their transness, right? Like, that's for if you want to, if that is your thing, then you want to walk realness or whatever, then that's your thing. But don't let your appearance, don't let being real, don't let any of that define your transness. You decide what your transness is, and don't let the outside get into it. And I'm just a butch queen saying it, but so I'm trying to shut up my trans girls, because they used to get that bullshit all the time from people that said, like, you don't have tits, you know, you're not whatever, you're not the most cunt, your face is so hard, blah 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 blah. It's like, that doesn't make you less trans. You know what I'm saying?
But you see how it has reversed? That was the old ballroom, how you made the girls feel less than who wasn't. But now the new ballroom is making the girls that are even women. This whole movement, when women said, don't call me that. Okay, it's just, we have to be mindful of how we address people. And I'm the voice, I have to be the voice of this in ballroom. Yes, we have a term called femme queen in ballroom. Leave that in ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what people are living out here in this world. Ballroom, y'all supposed to protect y'all individuals. Don't go out here to the world and blast them, because you don't know how they living.
Right.
Be mindful. Protect your sisters. That's our job, is to protect them. They come out to entertain you, but it's our job to protect that sacredity of making sure that they're not harmed out there. Because y'all really don't know what's going on in these streets. I ain't gonna get too deep, but be mindful. So be
really
mindful.
speaking so much truth to them. And I think the biggest thing that you tell them, that I always actually tell any of my daughters, whether they're in my house or not, even young kids, when I go to high schools and I'm mentoring young people that are, experience the questions around what transition looks like. Everyone's journey or story of how they transition or what transition means to them is personal to them. And the biggest part of that, what Shannon just said, is you have got to find peace with yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror.
Yes.
Because at the moments where everyone is not around and all the people ain't in your ear of telling you it'll be over for you if you get this done and you should have that done and all this other kind of stuff, are you doing it for them? Or are you doing it for yourself? At the end of the day, when you are alone and you look at yourself in the mirror, are you happy with how you are presenting and living your life? That's the bottom line. That's your transition story. And how you identify with, and again, I just said that several times earlier. I think the beauty of this generation to be able to define themselves as being non-binary, of being, pre or post-op or femme queen or whatever, however you choose to identify, that makes you happy from the inside. If you like it, I love it. Whatever makes you happy, because at the end of the day, everybody can say whatever they want to say, but when you get ready to get passed away, you are there with yourself. I had to make peace with myself when I'm in the hospital having cancer. When I'm in the hospital for 6 months and I'm not outside, I'm in that bed by myself. I have to make peace with who I am. to myself. If I passed away while I was in that hospital, I had to be at peace with the life that I had led. And I come out and I got to be at peace with the life that and the steps that I'm going to take outside of that. So when you are transitioning or you are thinking about transitioning, I always say, please take a moment to really think about who you are and what you are about to embark on, and how do you want that to reflect yourself.
And
Everybody else
transitioning. Every woman, every man, every gay, whatever you consider yourself in this world, heterosexual, gay, whatever. I don't think we realize everybody transition. Nobody stays the same.
Yes.
And in modern time, with modern medicine, more people are transitioning with cosmetic surgery than ever. So people, you see one person 1 minute and then they change the next. That's a transition. So they chose to go through this. Some for the better, some for the worse. But that's neither here nor there.
Okay, we have another question here. Anthony, yes, feel free.
Hi, icons. Yeah, my name is Anthony. First of all, thank you guys so much for sharing all your insight and your wisdom. It's been so cool to listen to as someone who's like been following Ballroom on like YouTube and now just started walking. It's been so cool to hear you guys. My question is mostly for Shannon for this upcoming Bazaar Ball. I'm gonna be walking face. And the category calls to be like a mythological creature and have an effect on the face. So like scales, horns, something like that. How, like, I'm just trying to wonder like how I would take on this effect to not be like distracting, still show, you know, the structure of the face, the beauty, but while still being on theme. So yeah.
So that's what makes Ballroom creative. You're supposed to be able to come to Ballroom and be undeniable. And you use your effect to accentuate your beauty, accentuate your face. You should never do anything that takes away from it or covering, because then people are going to be given, oh, do you really have face or not? So when you do your research and you see, like, we've had Club Kid Carter. And if you look at, some people they might not have the most winning face without all the extras to it. But then when they have Club Kid Carter, they are rock solid better than a person who don't need it. So that's the beautiful part about Ballroom, that sometimes a category is right up another person's alley versus the next person. So you have to find your lane. You got to excel in it. You got to keep going in it, but just play around, just have fun. Even if you have fun this time and do something out of the box and it doesn't give you the results that you were looking for, learn from it. Learn from it. If that category will come back around again, and then it'll be your time to be given, you know what, that might not work that time. Let me try something different and see if you get different results. That's the fun part about Ballroom. Try.
So then how would you explain? Yes, of course.
I want to add to that. So one of the things that I had said earlier, which was a lesson that I had to learn, is two things. One is, you have so much tools today that we didn't have, right? Because, you know, in the 80s, there was no internet, and now you got cell phones, you got apps, you could Google everything. Today, Anthony, there are so many ways to research beauty. And fashion designers, especially, you have to remember that when they do a show, they are appealing for editorial coverage. And everything is not necessarily always about the clothes. You have beauty magazines that also cover shows to find new trends or pick up ideas, beauty ideas from the models. You have people that are there who are focusing on the accessories. You have people that are there with a different eye looking at the same model, picking out different things, right? So I had to learn that when I was doing stuff in retail and doing celebrity products. You would be surprised that maybe as a pixie or something, there probably has been a show where a designer has made these the models all look beautiful in this exotic makeup and those looks. And the lesson that I had to learn from my mentor, one of my mentors and pioneers, was bring the picture. Bring the picture and show the model from the show in the look she has, show it to the judges, and then you are presenting yourself saying, this is my face, this is the beauty. And I took the inspiration from this model's face at this particular show to make people understand what you're doing. Now, does that always mean you're going to win or they're always going to get it? No, but you got to think outside the box and always come with that idea of backup. Again, taking an inspiration from something else and bring your proof. Shannon said, you bring those big pictures, honey, show it. This was at so-and-so show, have the people come through, and then you come behind, and then they'll go, I get the beauty.
It wows them. It wows them every time that you could bring to life something that, look what Pat McGrath just did. She just, her John Galliano for Mason Margiela, that whole glass face was the viral sensation of the year. And when I say you could, if I was doing something, I would take that and add to it. I would turn that into a whole fish and do the color and do the fish on the back of the head.
Yes.
Baby.
Yes.
I have been in shows where people have done my face with all types of things, turned me into a fish. I have been a walking plant. I have done all types of things. And child, you would just be surprised. The beauty that can come out with makeup is amazing what they could do today. So definitely search it, Google it, look at fashion shows and look at, beauty magazines, Allure and stuff. Some of them actually look at trends from, who was doing what color palettes might bring to life certain things and stuff. And come with the picture, honey. Like I said, I had to learn my lesson. So I'm passing that lesson on. Bring your picture. Shannon, what'd you say?
Aquarium. Get you a picture, get you an aquarium, come out of the aquarium. That's the ballroom.
Bitch, you just ate that so bad. Oh my God, that's bad.
So think beyond just showing your face. Think about your whole moment. I want to make a moment when I come down this runway. They're going to get it. You know what I mean?
That is bad. That's some good advice from the icons. They just ate that. I hope you're listening, Anthony. That was some good advice.
I am. Thank you so much, guys.
Good. All right, good. So there are no more questions. I just want to see, because we are well over time. We're actually almost an hour over right now. Ivy, your hand is up. Yes, go ahead, Ivy. Mother Ivy Andromeda, all the way from Vancouver.
Yeah, thanks so much for this. It's so generous of y'all to share your time and just, I don't know, knowledge from decades of work. It's appreciated. And I just wanted to ask, I guess, there's a lot of information on the internet, but I'm curious where y'all would recommend to start looking kind of beyond that, because I think you can find clips up to a certain point, but it's kind of difficult to dip back into the history. Like, for example, I hear stories of Dorian Corey's looks, but I haven't been able to find any footage of anything like that. And Leah, I know you mentioned earlier VHSs and things like that, and I know things are out there, and also just that research is important. So where would y'all recommend to start looking?
I'm going to tell you honestly, especially when it comes to the historical stuff, especially anything from the 60s to the 80s. I've had the privilege to sit down with Duchess, who has shopping bags full of pictures of the girls and the outfits and stuff when she walked balls from the 60s and stuff. And so to get that education, so this is before we was even thinking about recording balls, and before there was the Paris is Burning, before there was the Dorian them did the fantasy ball and those things. So yes, you're 100% right. There is a lack of a certain era of history, and I'm hoping to solve with some of these projects that I'm working on and stuff. And part of it is too, for me, why some of the things take long, because I really want people to get credit for the things that they have, right? Yes. I think that Duchess still being around, from somebody who's been walking balls from 67 to still be here today, is amazing. And I think that any historical institution that takes her photos should always acknowledge that this is the person that dedicated or whatever, and they should be getting some kind of compensation also.
Absolutely.
Compensation is so important. I know that people look at me sometimes and they think that I was trying to get her photos, like I was trying. There was no stunt. Duchess knew this. I want to make sure that it's not just about putting stuff up on Google and everything like that. She deserves a compensation.
Yes.
Do you know how many people, I have to say this, have passed away and their photos and the history that they had was thrown in the garbage? Their parents did not see value for the things, for those pictures of them. Some of them tried to even erase the fact that they were living as women. Their families they buried them as detransitioned them back to being men. So do you think they kept their pictures and stuff? They threw that stuff away. The pictures from Pepper and all of those things. And so you're right. There's a big gap that's out there, but here lies the opportunity also. Part of the opportunity is sometimes don't look at yourself as being limited. Think about it creatively. And yes, if it was easy, then everybody would be doing it. It's not easy. We know that it's not easy. That's where you're going to be a standout. That's what's going to make you become celebrated, is to sometimes to take your time and to do a little research and say, even if you don't know specifically, you do know that in that era, we were really aspirational. Our things was Hollywood glamour, right? When you talk to the girls that walked the balls in the 50s, they always wanted to be like those Hollywood celebrities. They always wanted to be like the big girls that worked in Vegas. They had showgirl costumes and things. So you may not know specifically what those girls presented, but you have a general idea of what ballroom gave at that time in those eras. And you could kind of go, well, what would I want to represent for that, today? And it doesn't always have to be, I hate to say this, doesn't have to be so literal sometimes. Sometimes you can be inspired by something and bring to it today your voice. But here's where Shannon just gave you all the wisdom. Bring a picture. Yeah. Your picture will be, this is my inspiration was, and this is my interpretation of it. You understand where I'm going with that? It may not necessarily be always is going to be so literal, but that's okay. That's okay. Anybody with a broad sense of mind or understands the creative process or understand what we're asked to do, we know that there should always be an element of creativity. It should always be pushing the mind. It should always be about pushing the boundaries. And to be honest, that's how you're going to make a moment. You can't make a moment just doing with the same thing that everybody else does. You can't make a moment just, I'm sorry to use the word, but you don't want to be common. You don't want to do like everybody else. Even if it gets you a 10, I always want to push my kids to say that it's not about the chop. Did you push yourself? Did you make a moment? That's why I step out of my bounds. I let my kids create stuff. I look at this sometimes and go, child, I don't know if I want to wear that. But you know why I do it? Because they have a different lens. They're going to bring something to it. And then I get to take what they've done and I give myself to it and say, okay, I get where you're going, but this is how I'm going to bring that thing down the runway. Be inspired, push yourself, go out of your comfort zone.
That's ballroom. Something that we don't give credit for, and this is what ballroom has influenced the world. Ballroom has influenced society. Ballroom is the culture. Everything is ballroom. The Met Gala is ballroom. These fashion shows are ballroom. And you know what's even most important, that what is ballroom? Every prom season in the last 10 years is ballroom. And we don't get our respect and our just dues. It's not these celebrities, it's ballroom. We are the inspiration of the world.
No shade.
We give credit. We give credit where we get our stuff from. We always credit everybody else, but we don't get our credit.
We got our shit too.
Or dear project, please.
Hey, Supreme.
Hey, sorry. I'm just walking outside. I hope. Sorry?
Sorry, Ivy, were you still speaking? Okay, yeah, Supreme.
I apologize, Ivy. Yeah, sorry. I just want to say that obviously, like many of us who are left, we got here from the beginning, and by the end of this conversation, I feel renewed. right? I feel like I was struggling a little bit in my ballroom journey. Obviously, I didn't really share that publicly, but hearing individually both of your stories and even Raven's perspective before she left was just something I feel like we all feel like we're not good enough sometimes. We all are our harshest critics, and we forget that there is no other us. There's only one of us. And if we don't leave our mark here on this earth, like you said, we'll leave others to retell our story and erase us. And I don't want that. I just came out like 3 years ago to my family, my Jamaican Christian strict family. And you know, I'm raising my kids, and I have biological children who ask me so many questions about my sexuality and why it is that I like to walk ballroom. And some of the categories I walk are scantily clad, like sex siren, like body. And to see my stick figure daughter, who's a slender bodied young woman, be so empowered by what her mom is doing, she doesn't even realize that she's being raised by ballroom, right? Someone who's telling her that she can pursue her passions and her creativity. Ballroom has given me so much peace and so much expression that I feel like I couldn't be doing in my regular former heterosexual life before I came out. So I just want to say thank you guys for being so vulnerable tonight. And I was truly touched by both your stories. And you, icon Father Twisted, sorry, unofficial icon, but he is to us. He's a pioneer. He's a pioneer to us. And today, this was just needed. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, she is rock socking. Trust and believe you me. When you guys see Supreme, you'll know exactly who she is. She's rock socking, rock socking, rock socking. Yes, so we have 2 more minutes. So let's just say I'm just like, I still can't believe we've been going for so long just now. Well, all the way from the Philippines. Wow, shout out. All the love from Philippines. This has been so good to listen to in my morning. We don't have much Bazaar people here yet. So to hear from wiser Bazaar folks has been so empowering. Thank you. And shout out to you, Manik, all the way from Philippines. Thank you for tuning in.
And listen, Philippines, I learned so much. Manila, I was there in '87. Corazon Aquino and everything. I was trapped in that country. Willie left me there, honey. I was trapped in that country. One of the early performances I had to do. So I love the Philippines. They treated me like family, and it was home for me. And I was 20 years old, my first time traveling overseas, and I got stuck in a country that was going through a whole coup attempt. And I was flipping out.
Oh,
so well, I love the Philippines.
Life to tell this tale. Wow. well, okay. Well, I guess this is definitely time. Ballroom here is ready for you all if you're ready to visit. That's what they say. So hello, the time is now. You have reach out to the icons. Make sure you guys, reach out to the icons, Shannon and Lee, when you're able to. They have public social media accounts that you can reach out to. And you also said about a saga that you did, Shannon.
Yes.
Are we able to watch it somewhere? Is it on YouTube? Is it on?
It's on Instagram. It's on Instagram.
Okay, so on
YouTube.
Boom.
Yeah.
So I will definitely be tuning into that. So yes, guys, I want to thank the icons Lee SOULJA and the icon Shannon Balenciaga for sharing with us. Also want to shout out Mother Raven LOUBOUTIN. I want to send a super big shout out to Mook and Skittles for having us. Thank you so much for doing this work. This was truly wonderful to see. This video recording will be posted for those of us who were not here. So these words will go on and they will live in history as well. So thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for sharing with us. Any last words?
My last thing I want to leave to this generation. Don't think everything is shade. When an icon is talking and trying to critique you, we're not doing it. Well, Shannon's not doing it. I'm going to speak for myself. Shannon's not doing it from a place of shade, hate, can't take. I'm doing it from a place of, I want you to be better than. Because you know what I wish when I was in the throne of walking, what an icon would have did for me was that they would have critiqued me to help me build it faster. That's That's something that my generation or before probably did not get, because 9 to 10, most people if they're your competition or they see you as competition, they're not going to help you beat them.
Right.
I'm a secure woman. I know no one can beat me because I'm one of one. I can give you the tools and give you the same outfit I wear, and you still will never beat me. But I want to make sure that you're the best. See, most people won't give you that. I've gave you that tidbit today.
Thank you, Lee.
Oh well, first of all, I'm glowing because I've watched Shannon for a long time. I love Shannon. I never forget also seeing her at events. I actually was on the judges panel that time that you won that $5,000 at the Garçon Ball. I was on the judges panel at that day and stuff. So I've always admired you, and I love what you represent for the house and the scene, and many members of the House of Balenciaga. I've had Raquel come to New York and do one of my shows for me. I do, an off-Broadway show that I present for the dolls and stuff, and she came and shut the building down. So so I have so much respect for you and your house members and stuff. So I want to say to everyone, I think I'm going to reiterate a lot of things that Shannon has said today. I think for me, I want everyone to know that, own your journey, own your story, own and realize that your story is personal to you. Your journey does not have to match everybody else's, but take in all of the tools and the things that we are telling you. We are sharing with you our experiences to let you know that you are not alone, that we may have been chopped, we may have felt all of the same emotion and the feelings that you have felt, but we found a way to push through it and to maintain and to continue on. For me and my house, it has never been about having the biggest house or the greatest house. I created my house so that there would be a safe space, and I wanted people in my house to feel the way that I was welcomed into Ballroom. I wanted them to feel that. We are kind of like a family unit, and we're more of a talent pool than everything just being about Ballroom. I have people in my house that, again, are designers, that walk, they're pageant winners, that do shows, that are models, but we know how to come together and take these particular skill sets that we have in the outer world and bring it to excel into Ballroom. And so I want you to realize too that your successes that are outside, sometimes Ballroom may not necessarily see it. Please do not take it to heart. Do not take it deep. You have to love yourself and know that for yourself. And so as from somebody who's like and was everything opposite of what everybody said you were supposed to look like and be, to be on the runway and to be here and there, I can stand to say, nope, I didn't accept that. And I pushed through until I made it happen. You could do the same thing. There's nothing that I've done that anybody else cannot do, but it starts with yourself. It really starts with yourself. So do that, love yourself first, and own your own story, own your own journey, own your own transition. Everybody transition, as Shannon so eloquently said. We all transitioning in one point or another, and part of that transition can just be you accepting who you are, your identity. It took me a while to accept, was I gay? We didn't even have the language of being pansexual and all of that. I didn't know what the hell that was when somebody was telling me, that I might be this and it might be that. So today you have so much benefits to research things, to look at things, and take your time. There's no race. Take your time. It took me a long time to figure it all out. So take your time.
Blessings.
And can I add one more thing? Please do not hesitate to hit me up, inbox me, and ask me a question. I do get sometimes very inundated because I run a nonprofit and I do a lot of things, but I always answer everybody. You can ask me a question. Doesn't matter what house you are. Everyone that knows me know that I'm a safe space. I have kids from many different houses who arrived in New York. They didn't even want their house members to know that they were homeless or whatever they were going through. So you can also know you can share things with me and it will stay with me, and it would be safe, to have those uncomfortable conversations if you're looking for someone. And I can advise you on to, not that I'm an expert, but I can also connect you to resources or services that you may need, or the help of somebody else, whether even if it is somebody to sit down and talk to. I'm
Ms.
open.
Westphal, Icons. That's what iconic people are, okay? They're legendary in their category, but they're iconic in the community and in the ballroom scene. So thank you all so much for the time. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all for staying so long over. This is incredible. Yes, that's all I can say is thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you all hopefully at the Bazaar Ball. Don't forget to check out the Bazaar Ball. Support them Saturday, June the 1st in Montreal, Canada. We will be having the Bazaar Ball presented by Mook and Skittles and Reeby. So shout out to the team. And we will see you all on the other side. Bye.
Thank you all for having me.
Bye.
Love y'all.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. We'll I'll get a hold of you. We'll pay you, but sorry I went over, but I was so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you, and everyone appreciated
Yeah.
this event so much because of you.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything. It means a lot.
Okay. Take it easy. I'll hit you up soon. Okay. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Is it really done?
Yeah.
Yes, Father, it is.
Y'all did an amazing
Done.
job. Y'all give yourself a pat on the back. Y'all did amazing.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for that amazing question as well. Really, really appreciated it.
Okay.
See ya.
Love you, live.